Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Aurelia Lieb.
And I'm Sophia Jenkins.
And today we have not one, but two special guests joining us in the pub. We have, first here, DJ, and then we have Mayuri. Welcome, you both.
Hi.
Thank you for having us back.
Yes.
So both of you have joined us in the pub before, but just for those listeners who may not remember fully, would you mind introducing yourselves again with, your favorite character, favorite book? No, actually, we're doing favorite DADA teacher today, and your Hogwarts house. So I think going in the order of the dog, DJ, do you want to start first?
Sure. I'm DJ, Dennis James. I'm a Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Slitherpuff, I guess you could say. I've been on a couple of episodes before. My favorite book is Deathly Hallows, and my favorite DADA teacher is Umbridge. Hot take.
What?
Ooh. I was going to say, you're coming in swinging into this
Wow.
episode.
Okay. Clearly a Slytherin. Favorite as in best? Or favorite as in most interesting?
No.
Okay.
No, I just think everything having to do... I mean, the episodes I was on last time were the Fudge episode and the Scrimgeour episode. And so I just find her... Anything having to do with the Ministry of Magic is just fascinating to me. So, not the best teacher. Like, please do not misunderstand me. No, I just really like to talk about Umbridge. So I'm crazy. It's fine. So,
Okay. Mayuri, let's. Now I'm worried what you're going to pick for DADA teacher.
No, I'm a little bit more tame than that. So, like I said, my name is Mayuri. I have been on, technically, I think it's 2 episodes, even though it was one recording. One very, very long recording before. My Hogwarts house is purely Slytherin. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And my favorite book has been and always will be Prisoner of Azkaban. And my favorite teacher is, of course, Lupin.
Nice.
That tracks then if your favorite book is Prisoner.
good choice. Good choice.
That's the logical answer.
Yeah.
So we're very glad to have you today in the pub, and we will talk about DADA teachers some more.
Yes. Just so everybody knows before we get into the episode, I'm not feeling that great today, so I'm only going to be here for part of the episode. It is going to be a little bit confusing, though, because technically, when you're listening to it, I'm going to be here for the second half of the episode, where we talk about the DADA jinx. So if you don't hear me during the rest, I'm not just being unusually quiet. I'm not here. So
a little peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
So welcome you both, and we've asked you for your favorite DADA teacher because today we are, for episode number 74, we're gathered to discuss the hirings and firings of the Defense Against the Dark Arts professors. We have some recommended reading, which Sophia is talking about later anyway, but it is an article she wrote that's called The Schemes Behind the Spite, Why Voldemort Really Jinxed the DADA Job. And you can find this on MuggleNet, and we will link it in our show notes. Before we dive in, I want to give a huge thanks to Sam Ullman over on our Patreon who brought us this round of drinks at the pub. Thank you, Sam.
Yay!
Really, really tasty drinks. And if you'd like to buy us a round at the pub, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the numeral 3 to sign up. You can listen to F and I debate Britishisms, and we did a sweets edition, so we talked all about sweets and candy for the Americans. We would really appreciate your help in keeping the lights on at the Three Broomsticks so we can talk about Harry Potter for a long time to come. We want to offer a toast to the comments on episode 71. This was the episode about evil Hermione, so the what if Hermione was evil. We raise our glass to commenter Irene G, who said, I refer to Sirius' words of wisdom. We all have light and dark inside of us, and it depends on what side we choose to act on. I think that Hermione is inherently good, but she reaches into her dark side to do what is right in the moment. Starting the DA was an emergency in her eyes, so she may not have thought the parchment charm through to the end. I feel the same about her putting the confusion charm on Cormac in tryouts. I think Cormac should have made the team and then be kicked out after Harry saw the bad team chemistry. What are you guys' thoughts?
So I started my career in leading panels at convention with a panel called Hermione is Slytherin, Changed My Mind. And I fully believe that Hermione and Draco are two sides of the same coin. People choose not to look at Draco as doing what he needs to be done for the safety of his family and friends, the same way they choose to ignore all the bad things that Hermione does for the safety of her family and friends. So there are many ways to look at it, but I think Hermione has a moral compass of her own and not the same moral compass as Harry.
Yeah, I can see that. I know I wasn't on the episode, but I've listened to it, and I know the whole I think the Cormac thing is maybe less of an issue, I think.
I think she had a crush.
Honestly, who cares about Quidditch? Yeah, and also it's school Quidditch, who cares really? But like the thing with the DA and the charm on the parchment and what it's done to Marietta, that's where I'm like, oof, because that
is a
extreme.
lifelong trauma.
Yeah.
Keeping Rita Skeeter in a jar creates lifelong trauma. Erasing her parents' memories for their own safety, no matter if she can get it back or not, still creates lifelong trauma to those people. She only looks at it through the lens of what she believes is the right thing to do.
Road to hell paved with good intentions.
Good point.
And I think, well, and I have to comment on this episode too, because one of my, I'm an author myself, and one of the themes of my second book was you can have the best intentions in the world and still do harm. And I think that this kind of is the same thing what the commenter said, but also what Sirius said. Like how you, like, it doesn't really matter what your motivations are. You still are doing harm to people, right? And I think we see this with Hermione, with Rita, with Umbridge, Marietta. I would argue that's not really good intentions, but I think that was just Hermione being a bully, and best case scenario, a bully, if not worse than a bully. But I find it really challenging to defend her on some of the things that you guys talked about, because there's just nothing really to defend, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she had good intentions, so what?
Yeah. I think also, like, and this is maybe not the point here, but how do you feed a beetle? Like, how did she even keep her alive?
Leaves. She had to keep that beetle alive all summer. All summer. Shake it.
Was it all summer? I thought it was only through the end of the train ride.
It's long enough, but yeah.
Either or. So this is, I argue these points a lot.
Right? But,
yeah. I argue these points a lot because I am also a Draco defender till I die. And I try and point out to people that just because your perspective is from Harry's point of view, you can justify Hermione's decisions and actions, but say your perspective was from the other side. Like, if you look at the root motivations behind a lot of his decisions, they're the same. I'm making you think about it.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I want to ask follow-up questions, but I'm
That's not this episode.
We'll be here for hours.
I will say of all the episodes you guys have ever done that I really would have wanted to be on, that was the one.
Well, at least you get to comment on it now. I have to say, DJ already mentioned this. I actually struggled which comment to pull through because there were so many good comments on the website. So I would absolutely recommend, if you haven't checked the comments, there was a lot of good stuff there. A lot of them were quite lengthy, so I was like, ooh, there's a lot of ground covered here. So check out those comments.
Yeah, it was a good one.
At the very least,
it was a good one.
To read DJ's comments, so because I was tempted to pick yours.
Self-promotion.
And I was like, but you'll be on the young
right.
So.
Yeah, no, this was a good one.
Cool.
For sure.
Well, let's hope this one's going to be a good one. Let's dive into our main discussion for today, and we'll do something at the top of the episode, which we usually do more towards the end, which is the 7 ingredients of today's special, because it's sort of an obvious one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's going to be the 7 DADA professors we see in the 7 books. So that is, just as a refresher before we dive in, that is Quirell, Lockhart, Lupin, Moody / Crouch. Well, we can debate the mechanics behind that later. Umbridge, Snape, and Amicus Carroll, the one we see the least of. Right, DADA. I think DJ, is that your comment here, Underdog?
The one in the pink, yeah, that's me.
I saw that and I agree.
I was a little confused initially. I actually reached out to Irvin to ask for clarification because I wasn't sure if the topic was initially the hiring and firing of the DADA teachers or who should have been the DADA teachers. So I was just a little confused by that. So I was thinking about it from both perspectives. And either way, I wanted to kind of say that, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but Harry being an Auror, I think it makes a lot of sense for immediately after Deathly Hallows. Obviously, we see him kind of fixated on that for a hot minute. But why was he not the DADA teacher in the epilogue? Like,
he should have been.
Yeah, he absolutely should have been, right? You're telling me he decided to go work for an institution that literally had somebody like launching a smear campaign against him, where we forgave someone who tortured him with a blood quill for a year, and like he's just going to go in there and make it better. Which to me, like, you know, forget the magic, forget the spells and everything else. The most unrealistic thing about the Harry Potter series is the fact that apparently one person can go to the magical government and make it not corrupt anymore. Like, really? Like, one person can just make the government efficient and not corrupt? Anyway.
But then also, arguably, that's what Hermione's trying to do. So she doesn't need Harry to help, because if it's one person, we've got that covered.
Yeah,
right.
well,
I suppose if there's 2, but even 2, I mean, like that's hardly better than
there's
one.
2 with a lot of money behind them. No, I've always thought, so here's the thing. It's like a child who grew up in chaos, lived in chaos through school, would not want, in my opinion, once the war was settled and everyone was brought to justice, would not want to live in that chaos there's 2 schools of thought. He either wouldn't want to live in that chaos for the rest of his life, or it's all he knows. Mm-hmm. And it's all he thinks he's good at, so he will continue to do that, right? So this is where it's like, we have, like, if we're counting Cursed Child as canon, Harry's not the best father to a child he doesn't know how to relate to. So I can see where maybe he wouldn't be the best teacher, but that's where it's just kind of like, because a teacher's role is not, especially at a boarding school like Hogwarts, I say as someone who's never been to boarding school, you're also a bit of a counselor, right? Like, you have to notice if kids are doing well, if they're adjusted, if they need help, if they, like, you have to be able to do those things. And it reads to me as problematic that he could not relate to a child of his own that he couldn't find common ground with, and having to do that on a larger scale would be problematic. Now, I put that separate because mentally, my headcanon is that is not canon, because none of it makes sense to me.
Also, like, side note, Snape was like head of Slytherins for like years.
Seriously, that's true. That's true. But I think that he was a good head to the Slytherins.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, he was Team Slytherin all the way. He was like, he was always in his role as spy, as head of Slytherin. Even after Voldemort was defeated, Dumbledore knew, so he knew there was always a chance that he would have to reprise that role. So he had to keep that persona up. We all know he was miserable. I am also a Snape apologist, but even I will admit to the fact that man should never be around children.
I think it's, despite all the other points, there's lots negative stuff to be said about Snape, but he's just not a people person. No. So why put him in a job with hundreds of people around him? So
yeah. But that's
Thanks,
where
Dumbledore.
So I can see the argument where Harry stayed in the system, especially if Hermione was coming up. It could feel like to them, like it's them against the rest of the Ministry, and like Harry reaching a height, using his momentum to become head of the department eventually, right? No? Is that what he is? In Cursed Child, and her being
in Cursed Child, he's head of Auror, yeah.
So
he's head of the magical law enforcement,
so you would assume that took like what 20-ish years, something like that, to get to, and Hermione being minister of magic, so she makes the laws and he enforces them. So like they are a good duo, and Draco Malfoy is on their side, and so between the three of them, like, Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy also have a ton of money, and Draco Malfoy is, a lobbyist for them? I don't know what he does with his spare time at that point. But, like, I can see where they would say, like, the Ministry is corrupt, and we just need to bring it to our standard. Now, again, they both have their own set of moral and guidance that is maybe not equal and good for everyone. So like that's where it's like I can see it, but I wish there was a period of time that he was the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, because I do think he would be great at it. That's the whole. I honestly thought the whole DA storyline was like a predecessor to him becoming a professor eventually, because Hogwarts is his home. So wouldn't he want to be there? So I get it.
Yeah, and the whole, I actually really think Harry should have followed in the footsteps of Lupin and then later Dumbledore, right? And eventually gone on to be headmaster of Hogwarts, because him joining the Ministry, I think it's kind of inevitable that Harry eventually becomes like whoever's Minister of Magic while Harry Potter is in the Auror's office is going to listen to whatever Harry wants him to do, because the public is going to be so adamantly on Harry's side no matter what at that point.
But the public can be manipulated very easily, we know.
Yeah, but after everything Harry went through,
it would be surprising to me if he wanted to be minister or headmaster. Like that doesn't seem like his character.
Yeah, I feel like
anyway. Yeah, we don't need to spend a ton of time talking about it, but
I could spend a lot of time talking about it.
But I did want to just bring that up. Yeah.
I think it's one of those fanons where people are usually quite united behind it. One of those rare ones where everyone's like, yeah. So I thought very quickly just to cover what the subject DADA is actually, because we have such inconsistent teachers and also inconsistent storytelling as to how much we actually learn about what's going on in DADA, because we don't really see a lot going on with Quirell or Lockhart, but we'll cover that in a second. So DADA obviously stands for Defense Against the Dark Arts. It's one of the core subjects, so it's one of the ones you sort of have to take until your OWLs, and it's where students, learn to defend themselves. Against dark magic, creatures, curses, and hexes. I would add with the creatures part, that's not just defending, but it's also sort of more how to navigate and handle those. So it's not outright defense, I guess, with that. And I think that's the part we mostly see with Lupin, which is quite interesting because that crosses over into magical creatures subject. Anyway. But yeah, so let's talk about the hiring of the teachers. And let's go through in chronological order. So, Quirell.
My favorite. Like, sorry, and I've said this. I know we're doing this out of order, but you'll hear this first. But it just never made sense to me why they tagged a Muggle Studies professor to become the defense against the dark arts. It's not even in the realm of being similar. And like,
yeah.
Also, I mean, for someone who's supposed to be meek and timid, how do you just ask for that job?
So that's why I'm sort of convinced that he is the Muggle Studies professor. He takes a sabbatical, however long that actually is. Is that just a summer? I don't know. Goes to travel, gets Voldy in the back of his head, because that's a normal thing that happens. And only then when he comes back, he's like, wait, you still don't have a DADA teacher? I would actually like to do that. I've been traveling and I've learned so much about this. I'm the right person. That's in my head how the order of things is, because it makes less sense for me that he gets the job and then goes traveling.
So, I'll have to look at Sorcerer's Stone again, but I believe because Harry and Hagrid meet Quirrell in the Leaky Cauldron in Sorcerer's Stone.
The day of the break-in.
And yeah, that's the day of the break-in, but he doesn't have Voldy on the back of his head at that point. But Hagrid introduces him as the DADA teacher.
They don't shake hands, though.
Do we know that he doesn't have Voldemort in the back of his head?
I feel like that's a movieism. Let me grab Sorcerer's Stone. Because now it's bothering me.
No.
Page 59 on... This is the illustrated edition. A pale young man made his way forward very nervously. One of his eyes was twitching. Professor Quirrell, said Hagrid. Harry, Professor Quirrell will be one of your teachers at Hogwarts. Potter, stammered Professor Quirrell, grasping Harry's hand. Can't tell you how pleased I am to meet you. What sort of magic do you teach, Professor Quirrell? So he does grasp Harry's hand, because it says grasping Harry's hand.
Oh, yeah, then...
Yeah.
There's no mention of a turban either, right?
No mention of a turban. It just says a pale young man.
Pale young man?
There's actually no...
It's page 70 in the U.S. paperback, by the way.
Okay.
You're right. So, okay,
what reason does he have to break into Gringotts without Voldy?
Well, he's working for Voldy still. He's just not possessed by Voldy yet.
But how does, if Voldemort is vapor, how does Quirrell...
Yeah.
Communicate?
Quirrell goes to Albania, acquires Voldemort at the back of his head. Then Voldemort tells him, break into Gringotts.
Is this a plot hole, maybe?
I think it's a plot hole.
I think so.
I think him touching Harry's hand is a plot hole.
Because it says that in your edition, too, right?
Yeah, it does.
It does say the term. It does. Okay.
Grasping Harry's hand. So, or I wonder if it becomes like there's no ill intention towards Harry yet, so the magic is not activating.
That would work, yeah.
We could say that,
Maybe.
right? But, like, again, a pale young man. This man is a defense against dark arts teacher, and he's still being described as a pale young man? So how old is he? What is Dumbledore doing? Like, why is he...
Well, I'm sorry, but Snape becomes teacher at, like, the age of 20.
That's true. We know the reason for that, though. We know the reason for that.
Well, the reason for this one is Harry has to go through an obstacle course at the end of the year.
Oh, wait. So they go into how smart Quirrell is, right? Like, he was trembling. It goes, he was fine until he took a year off to get firsthand experience. I think he got asked to be Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher after.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that would make sense to me.
But we know he's the ADA teacher at the Leaky Cauldron that day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But maybe because, I mean, him grasping Harry's hand isn't maybe Lily's love magic isn't activating in that moment. I think
that's
you
what I was saying.
mentioned that as, like, a
Maybe
possibility.
Voldemort's not strong enough. There's no ill intent. There's something in there, right? That it's not activating.
He hasn't had enough unicorn blood yet.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't actively want to kill Harry in that moment. You're telling me a whole year went by and the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher never, like, touched his arm or anything walking past?
Isn't it said that Voldemort was a little, like, he almost wanted to try to recruit Harry at the beginning? Or isn't that implied? Or maybe I'm thinking of, like, the Death Eaters were more like,
Yeah, I think it's more the Death Eaters than Voldemort. Because that's definitely why Draco tries to become friends.
But I would wonder if the reason is because he's not actively trying to do harm to Harry in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and every moment that comes from the end of that book afterwards, Voldemort is actively trying to do him harm.
Yeah.
Right.
And that maybe that's what triggers the magic. So, but it's still, the way this goes in my head is that Quirrell it says he's studious and that he took a year off to get experience, that maybe he wanted the job for whatever reason, but knew he wasn't qualified. So this is where it's like, I never understand if, like, apprenticeship and, like, master, like that situation, you would assume that that's how things work in the wizarding world. Like, there's no higher education that we know of that they speak about in the books, right? Like, there's no Oxford, whatever. Like, that's all fanon, that there's, like, a magical college or whatever that people go to. So you have to assume that people learn their craft by just studying or learning from someone. So, like, professors maybe learn it, like students maybe intern with professors or some version of that where they learn about the subject and that sort of thing. And that Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers maybe need to have experience. And so that's why he goes out and goes to the vampire, like Albania and all of those places to, like, get the experience that he needs to be able to apply for the position.
That would make sense, I think. Because
technically everybody else has experience, even if Lockhart's is made up. According to the world, he has experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, I guess, if we're actually talking about skills and learning how to teach, because Muggle Studies is an elective, and therefore you don't have 7 years worth of students taking it, you could technically sit into other classes in your spare time and learn from other teachers about how to hold a class.
So, like, that's where I could believe that he was, like, working himself, like I could believe that he got hired as the Muggle Studies professor with no experience, because, like, really, who cares about that class? And then uses that experience to build to get into the role that he actually wants to do.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the coincidence that Voldemort runs into him. Because, like, and you guys can correct me, because I can't remember, and it could just be in the piece that JK wrote, that he was actively looking for Voldemort.
I don't think he is.
I think so, that's, right? Like, so
that's happenstance, yeah.
I haven't read any of the Pottermore pieces. So that's where it's just kind of like, it's a coincidence. I think it's a coincidence. The theory of Sophia's does not warrant this level of, like, dedication for a course.
Yeah.
But that could be, like, the criteria, right? That they have to have experience in some sort of dark arts knowledge.
Yeah.
And that includes creatures and stuff.
Part of the problem is because this is book 1 and it's really short. We don't actually see him teach a single time.
We don't know what he teaches.
Yeah. The only thing we can assume is because everyone's so hyped wants to have Lupin is that it probably wasn't the best. Otherwise, people would be like, oh, he's as good as Quirrell or something. I mean,
yeah, we also don't know at this point that we're going to get a new DADA teacher every year, right? If you're reading book 1 for the first time, like, you don't know to keep an eye out for whoever the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher is because they're all new to you, right?
Yeah.
So the one thing I think we can assume is that, like, none of the students respected him, right? Because if he's timid and stuttering, he's wearing a turban as a, young white man. Gotta be real with you.
There's this scene where Fred and George try to bewitch, snowballs to attack him. He clearly does not have respect.
No, so you would assume that the students aren't getting much other than, students are probably getting way more out of Umbridge later on than Quirrell, because, if he can't command a classroom, how is he expected to teach?
I mean, that's Hagrid's problem as well.
So, if they get just the book knowledge and some physical experience, but not enough to actually feel competent, but enough to so here's the other thing is there must be exams at the end of it every year. There are exams at the end of every year, right? So students are doing just enough to pass whatever is the exam for Defense Against the Dark Arts a standardized test per year, or does the professor provide the test?
So I think for years 1 to 4 and 6, it's the professor provides the test, and then for years 5 and 7, it's the standardized OWL and NEW.
It's the OWLs and because we see Lupin's test in Prisoner.
Yeah,
or part of it anyway. Yeah,
the practical part. Yes.
Yeah. So that's where it's just he could just be teaching the bare basics.
He could teach trolls because he's good with them.
The trolls. But and then you also have to imagine that he's teaching across all the grades. So
everyone just learns about trolls.
But so I think that's what it was. Dumbledore probably didn't have someone, and he technically met the requirements.
I don't really have a strong opinion on Quirrell. I have a strong opinion on every single DADA teacher.
Except
after
Quirrell.
Except
Isn't
Quirrell.
That ironic?
I don't care about Quirrell. I just don't
I think it's because we don't see a lot.
We don't see him.
Okay.
I think it's it's meant to be that the way. Quirrell is literally just a vessel the entire book.
Right.
There is not anything that was unique and exemplary about him. They said that he was a brilliant student. So anything that was exemplary about him gets washed away by the fact that he was possessed by Voldemort. Yeah. His whole personality gets rewritten. He tries to become unassuming. And it's that whole situation. I think we know enough about Quirrell that whatever we're meant to know is meant to be skipped over. He's not important.
Yeah.
The only interactions with Quirrell we have are deliberately outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
They're everything to do with the stone. Really?
Yeah.
Shall we move on to a teacher we care more about?
Yeah, I was there's really...
Absolutely.
I cannot talk. There's nothing else of substance with Quirrell, but Lockhart...
Well, first of all, we have a full Lockhart episode, so you guys should check it out if you haven't listened to it yet. But Lockhart, let's talk about it. We don't know particularly well why he was hired, but sort of can assume there was no better options. Dumbledore was struggling at this point, and this was it.
Well, Hagrid says as much. I think it's when Ron starts vomiting slugs, and they go to see him, and Hermione, somebody is how could they let a Lockhart teach us? And Hagrid's he was the only one for the job. And I don't remember exactly when that happened, but I do remember it does happen at some point in Chamber.
So I think it would be remiss to not bring up Sophia's later point, since this is the beginning part of the episode, that if the curse has been going on for years and years and years and years, Dumbledore is at this point scraping the very bottom of the barrel in terms of the Wizarding World. So even if you can assume the Wizarding World is at least a handful of thousands of people spread across Britain, the amount of qualified teachers after, if you have one every year for say about 30 years, that's a lot of people to run through that it would I would not want the job either. And so maybe it's just he wants the they went to him because they knew he would want the notoriety of the position. And they needed a body who could do the bare minimum of teaching something.
But could he?
I mean, we don't know how he taught the older, like, we know he did that ridiculous test at the beginning, right? And you could, and we know that he loosed Cornish pixies, but like, and you guys don't have to, it's been a while since I've read the second book, but how, and you guys did the episode, how much more do they talk about what he taught, how he taught in the classroom?
The only other mention is, I think, is that classes became less exciting after the pixies.
We do know that it was a lot of him reenacting scenes from his book. And he would use Harry as his favorite guest actor. You know, Harry would do the howls like a werewolf, or
He was
the stand-in.
Yeah.
Real quick, while I'm thinking about it, I believe there was a Pottermore article about Lockhart where actually it did say Dumbledore knew he was a fraud, and he was actively trying to get Lockhart to expose himself by being the DADA teacher, which is crazy to me, right?
Yeah, which is wild.
Like, oh, let's hire a teacher just so that he just like exposes himself as a fraud, like, in arguably the most important subject of my school's curriculum. Like, also
like poor students who have to do their OWLs and NEWTs that year. It's like, you'll just learn nothing.
So I just looked up on Pottermore, the section on Dumbledore and Gilderoy, and it said, Dumbledore's plans, however, ran deep. He happened to have known two of the wizards for whose life's work Lockhart had taken credit, and was one of the only people in the world who thought he knew what Lockhart was up to. He was convinced that he needed to be put back in ordinary school setting to be revealed as a charlatan and a fraud.
Not good.
And so when McGonagall questioned Dumbledore on the hire, Dumbledore replied, "There is plenty to be learned even from a bad teacher, what not to do, how not to be."
So really, maybe the episode of this episode should be Dumbledore should not be headmaster.
I mean, all of his hiring decisions are terrible. So like Dumbledore, so agreed, Dumbledore knew he was a fraud, and it was actively trying to use this post to be able to get him to expose himself to the wizarding world. And he's using children's education as like something to be toyed with, which is not something a headmaster should do. But he's not wrong. There's plenty to be learned even from a bad teacher. So even in the reenactments and stuff, the actual process of the stories in the books of how they defeated those creatures were not false. They're true.
Yeah,
so even the reenactment of the stories are still teaching the children something.
Yeah, it's just the ADA became drama this year.
Yes.
And there's value to that. I mean, when you put it that way. And as we kind of talked about earlier when we were going out of order, nobody was ever in mortal danger in Lockhart's classes like they were in Hagrid's classes or Moody's classes or other teachers' classes. So
yeah, so that's where it's just like, if the whole Chamber of Secrets thing wasn't going on, like, obviously he would have been found out that he couldn't actually do magic well.
I mean, he was planning to leave anyway.
Yeah. I think maybe Dumbledore put him in the position thinking that his curse at the end of the year would expose him. Like the one... This is where I'm
use the curse to his benefit.
Like, why not? Like, if you're trying to expose this man, like, put him in a position that's temporary.
Well, it's like you said, Dumbledore and Voldemort are pretty much the same person. So,
they really are.
Like...
I truly believe Dumbledore and Voldemort, and then Hermione and Draco, they're all the same. I know.
Everyone's the same.
They're not all the same. Everyone's very different.
Yeah.
But no.
Everyone's Lavender Brown. Just rename everyone Lavender Brown.
That girl. But no, so like this is where I think that Dumbledore it was a bad hire from the start, and that was very intentional because Dumbledore had a grudge against Lockhart.
Yeah.
And so he was just like, what better way to prove he's a fraud than put him in front of a bunch of teenagers?
I was going to say, you could have brainstormed that a bit longer.
He was Albus Dumbledore. Like, his name had not gone down at this point. Does he not think that if he just said, like, this man is a fraud, that people wouldn't just believe him?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad to just know that McGonagall at least was like,
This is where it's like, there's proof there then that McGonagall has commentary on any hire, and Dumbledore overwrites her commentary every time.
Right.
Dumbledore's just like, trust me. It worked out so well last time. Nothing could go wrong this time.
Hey, I will say, Lockhart is the one responsible for setting up Harry learning Expelliarmus. He didn't teach Harry Expelliarmus.
Listen.
True.
But without Lockhart,
Snape.
Harry never would have learned Expelliarmus.
Yeah.
So really, Lockhart's the best teacher we ever see.
Saved the Wizarding World. He did.
Thank you. Lockhart's the one who saved everything.
Oh,
That's hilarious. Well, I will say, it's hard for me to classify, if we're moving on, Lupin as a bad hire, because I think he was a great teacher. I
think that has a lot more to do with
the politics,
stereotypes and politics and also the not so great thing the author chose to do with werewolves and be like, hey, they're like supposed to represent people with HIV.
Yeah.
It's just not great in general because there's only one good werewolf we see this entire series. But let's put that aside because it doesn't work. I agree. It's not a bad hire because Lupin is a great teacher.
Yeah.
He's another person that's clearly made to teach, just like Harry is very good at teaching. Lupin seems to just have a knack for teaching.
Yeah, I think, but if you're looking at the hire from McGonagall's standpoint, Lupin is a great hire if she hired him. But from Dumbledore's standpoint, he's headmaster. He has to deal with the board. He has to deal with parents. It is very much a political hire that he has to make. And Lupin is not a good choice for that. But I bet he was just like, I just need this year. And then he'll be out and no one will be the wiser that he was a werewolf. I have an agreement with Snape. Yeah. Snape's going to make Wolfsbane. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. Do we think, though, that the timing of this has very much to do with Sirius Black?
So it depends on when he was hired, because how far before the school year did Black escape? Right? It was Harry's birthday?
It was around that time,
right?
Yeah.
It was Harry's birthday, right?
But then Lupin is on the train to Hogwarts, which could suggest that he got the position very late, that he didn't get to Hogwarts before the students did.
Yeah, so maybe it is. And maybe they're trying to use his knowledge of Black and also know that Black's coming to Hogwarts for Harry, that maybe he'll get tripped up by Lupin. This is where I love the fanon that they were a couple, because it's just...
Yes. Wolfstar.
The Wolfstar fanon is...
Well, I also think I have a lot of thoughts on Lupin, but I'll start with, I do think it's interesting that Lupin was the teacher this year and not one of the previous years or even in a later year. And I do think there's a very real argument to be had that it was because of Sirius, because Dumbledore believes Sirius to be the guilty party at this point, right?
It's weird to believe that.
Yes. So I think it is interesting, he could have hired Lupin last year instead of Lockhart, or instead of Quirell, or in one of the, intervening years between him graduating and before Harry started. But we see him this year, and I mean, obviously the answer is because plot convenience, right? But that's a boring answer. So
no, I agree. I think it's because of Sirius.
I also think that he may have used emotional blackmail.
Oh, of course,
to get Lupin to sign on.
You have to protect Harry from Sirius.
Exactly. And you're the best person because you're the last one around.
But Lupin still does not disclose the secret tunnels into the school.
Right.
No.
Right.
This is where he's a bad teacher. Your job is to protect, and you're like, I know there's secret tunnels in and out of the school. more than just the one.
He also never told Dumbledore about Sirius being an animagus. He never told
Marauders
Dumbledore
map.
about the Marauders map, right? I think Lupin is a great teacher in the classroom. I actually think Lupin
And a flawed man.
was a terrible teacher outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
Right? I think his professional judgment was clouded by his love of Sirius or by his relationship with Sirius. And
I mean, we see his lack of judgment later with Tonks as well. It was
well,
like
exactly. It's like he has
the
very
whole
poor
argument he
judgment.
gets into with Harry.
Mhm. Yeah, but there's also, I mean, Lupin, as we will talk about later, obviously he leaves because he forgets to take the Wolfsbane potion. That could have happened at any point throughout the year, and then it becomes a safety issue, right? For students and staff, right? Like there is a werewolf in the school in a position of power, right? And
Yeah.
With little oversight, because what's the oversight that he's taking that potion?
I was going to say, this is where you have to be a micromanager, Albus. You have to be on this one.
right,
Like, why
Yeah,
isn't
you
Madame
have to be.
Pomfrey administering the potion every time
and maybe
to ensure
Snape
that he's
is
taking
supposed
it?
to be. Yeah, maybe Snape is supposed to
But
be. Maybe that's why
that's
Snape is
That's a
stupid call.
delivering.
terrible call.
I agree.
agree.
I
Yeah,
agree.
you know,
right?
these two hate each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I don't think Lupin was a fantastic hire either. I think he was a great teacher, but I don't think he was a
Yeah.
great hire.
Listen, I think I agree with you.
Mhm.
He was.
Yeah.
I think he was partially bait.
Yeah.
That maybe if Lupin was there, that Sirius would go for Lupin and not Harry, or Lupin knows Sirius enough that like he could like help with Harry. I don't know. It was
Right.
if he was allowed, and I think you made this point in the future. If he was allowed to teach for years and years, he could have developed into a great teacher. But I think a lot of those skills, everything I know about teaching, by the way, comes from watching Abbott Elementary. But I think
Yeah.
It's a great show.
how to manage students and do the outside of the classroom piece comes with experience. And so
Absolutely
where he
it
could
does,
have
yeah.
learned from the other teachers, right? But he was never going to get that opportunity. Every single professor is really just a placeholder to do the bare minimum. You just need them to teach, period. And that's...
I think that's where, because I'm a teacher in my day job, actually. So I have kind of a different perspective on a few of these hires. And, unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but for better or for worse, we do hold teachers to a higher standard than we would other professions because we're taking student safety into consideration, right? And I think I don't know that I want to make this comment because I hate making it, but the fact that Lupin is a werewolf, should that be a red flag for a teacher?
Well, this is where it's like, if you have safety checks that you can trust, right? You have a nurse on staff. So if someone is required to take a medicine to make them safe for students, why is your nurse not administrating that medicine and logging that the doses have been taken? There's a lot of trust there in someone who has not earned that trust.
Right.
And so that's where it's like Snape brings him the goblet. It's up to him to drink it. So there is nowhere for him to record that his doses have been taken. And then it creates a second layer of protection for him, right? So if someone says, like, how do I know that he's taken them? You're like, okay, our very trustworthy school doctor, nurse, whatever she is, has logged that she has seen him take those doses.
Yeah, it should be Snape and Pomfrey in the room. So there's two of them in case something goes wrong. and B, as you say, someone else can verify this has happened.
And in that sort of situation, I would say that he is safe to be around the students for the week, right? Like, because the other thing, we don't know much about the werewolf temperament, right? Like, this is all fanon and what we know about, like, what could happen if you were a werewolf, right? But, like, you would argue that werewolves can be more aggressive and have issues closer to the moon and stuff like that. And so it's like, you want to be able to argue that if he's taking the medicine, it doesn't make him aggressive. Because, like, the other werewolves that we know are crazy aggressive. Right? So, like, Lupin is very Hulk-like to me. Be like, how do you avoid getting mad? And it's like, I'm mad all the time. And so it's just kind of like how much of his werewolf is being managed by him on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And so that's just where, but again, he's just a third-year professor. So, like,
right.
It's funny because, like, he is teaching 4th years and 6th years, right? So, like, what he's teaching them is important, but in the context of Harry, it's really not. The 4th year professor is super important because it's the year before the year that they get tested. So you would hope that whoever you hire for their 4th year is someone who can actually catch them up on the curriculum required for the next year. Like that one.
Right.
Well,
I would argue that Moody was that higher.
I was gonna say, I mean, it sounds like Lupin's covered mostly
Creatures.
like beasts and creatures and stuff like that. And then Moody was like, well, I'll just cover curses and counter curses and jinxes and all of that stuff. I think those two are potentially with Snape the best years of DADA they get.
Yeah.
Was it great that Moody put his students under the Imperious Curse? No.
Crouch.
Did they need to learn about it? Yes, but was that the right way? No.
I think what is amazing to me about Moody and Crouch Jr. Is that, like, we've been using those names kind of interchangeably throughout this entire episode. And you really can, because I don't think Crouch Jr. did anything that the real Moody wouldn't have.
I agree.
I don't necessarily have evidence to back that up, but, like, I think if Crouch Jr. was doing things the real Moody wouldn't have, it would have given him away sooner.
Yeah.
But that's where it's like Moody's temperament made it easy for Crouch Jr. to copy him because it's very well known, right? He's taught many people. So it's like you just use the same methods you know that he employs to teach. And like I said, out of all the hires, I would say that Moody was the smartest hire for Dumbledore. Barring all the Crouch Jr. stuff, like at this point in time with the Triwizard Tournament coming up, right? Even if you just have one Hogwarts champion, right? Because you have to assume Dumbledore didn't think there would be two. Hiring Moody to catch them up on curses, counter curses, that sort of thing, it fills a knowledge gap that all of the students didn't have before in the last 3 years. So I would say this is probably his best hire of all the years.
I think so. I do think it's interesting.
Yeah.
That got me thinking, do you think Dumbledore meticulously plans out, like, okay, we need to have a good teacher these years. We need to have a good teacher this year. We can have a kind of a bad teacher this year. This year doesn't matter. Let's throw Lockhart in. Like, how far in advance do you think he's planning that out?
I don't think for those reasons. I think I'm agreeing with Mayuri here for the reason of there is a tournament, there's other students, there's Karkaroff at the school, who was a Death Eater. So I think for those reasons, it makes sense to have a former Auror on staff this year. Because there's just so much additional pressure on Hogwarts and anything that's going on at Hogwarts.
I agree.
So I think for those reasons, it's a great hire.
I mean, I think Crouch Jr. was actually a fantastic teacher. Arguably the best teacher, barring, the whole Imperious Curse thing. Which
I
wasn't
wonder
great.
if Moody had time to create a lesson plan. Like, how soon after Moody was hired did Crouch Jr. take over for him? And did Moody have lesson plans that Crouch Jr. just did? Because then I think about Crouch Jr. and all of his like craziness, sitting and doing lesson plans for all the years.
I think Sam mentioned this on a previous episode, but like we know Crouch Jr. has one of the most NEWTs. He's like super smart. Like Jenny, he's one of those characters that are in the fandom. We all like, we would like to know more about him because he seems so interesting. So I definitely think from like a skill level, he's qualified as well. But like all the other stuff that comes with teaching, as you say, like, you know, make like looking through homework assignments, because everything that Hogwarts seems to be do is write an essay, write an essay, write an essay. He has to like mark these and all of that stuff.
I have 2 points. One, what if he was using his own schooling as a base for his lessons? And maybe that's why they're going into more advanced stuff, other than him being, you know, a sociopath. And 2, I don't understand why Hogwarts professors don't have higher up students mark the lower students as extra credit or something. Because, like, how are you reading that many things all day? No wonder Snape is miserable.
Or have like a teacher's assistant or something. Someone else
Like
who's
a TA,
interested in
yeah.
There's no TAs at Hogwarts? Not one?
You could also just split, like, how do you only have one teacher for one subject?
That's what I
Like,
was
I
going to
think
say.
Sam, again, broke it down once of how many classes you'd have to teach, and it actually doesn't work because the author doesn't do maths. But, like, that would then make more sense if you have a teacher
No,
for
a
years,
timetable's-
let's say 1, 2, 3, and then you have a teacher for the higher ups.
All the teachers have time turners.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
No, but that's where
Yeah.
it's just like, obviously, I would say the unforgivable situation was just because of the Neville. Like, I think he was torturing Neville and getting off on it. Like, that was that whole
Yeah.
situation. But what if everything else... What if everything else was him planning his lessons based off of his schooling and what they were taught those years?
I think also we have the problem that we see it through Harry's eyes. And obviously he has a different thing in mind for Harry particularly.
Yeah.
Like, I think they only do how to throw off the Imperius and all of that stuff because Crouch Jr. knows Harry's going to meet Voldemort by the end of this year, and he wants his master to have fun and have a pet to actually play with and not someone who's immediately going to cave. So I think with Harry specifically, it's either like you need this for the tournament or you need this to like make it to Voldemort, or like there's difference.
Or they were trying to assess his magic
Yeah.
level, right? Like his will level for Voldemort. Like, can he throw it off?
Versus the other classes, I mean, we have the comment of Fred and George being like how great they think Moody is a teacher, but we don't know if he does the same thing with them, if he also puts them under the Unforgivables. Because he might actually just sort of teach more normally, if that makes sense, in those years, because there's no Harry Potter, so he doesn't particularly care.
I would also say there's no Neville Longbottom. Like, he's a what's the word? A sadist at heart, no? So having Neville there, knowing that he was the one who tortured his parents into insanity, like every bit of pain that he would cause that child, I think that he would enjoy. So having the two of them in one class is what I think makes those classes more unhinged.
Yeah, I would agree.
But yeah, outside of that, like, he's a good teacher, apparently.
Yeah, and I agree, he's a good hire.
Minus that Voldemort stuff.
Yeah, minus the tiny little.
Minus the Crouch Jr. stuff and minus the Imperious Curse stuff.
But other than that,
well, yeah, I think his day-to-day lessons were really, really good overall.
And he does what Dumbledore wants him to do, which is help Harry through the tournament.
Right. Yeah.
Just for a different reason than Dumbledore wanted.
Yeah, I feel like I've already kind of given my points on Umbridge, but...
Well, she's interesting because she isn't hired by Dumbledore.
Yeah.
But that's the difference, where Dumbledore hasn't that's where he loses his control over his school, where the ministry basically is like, no.
Oh, so this is where like the back end politics interests me, because how much power does the board have over hires, right? Like up until this point, we haven't really thought about the school board having influence, but in this year we see them have the influence, right? To get the ministry exerts influence over Hogwarts, but they have to have the approval of the school board, which
Right.
Lucius is on, which is why it was easy.
He isn't on anymore at this point. He leaves after the
Second year?
second year. Yeah. But like we actually debated this in another episode recently, because that was an episode about the school, but the chapter mentions the school board. And I was like, this like is introduced as a concept for Lucius to be in the school board and then just never is properly followed up ever again.
Right.
You
I'm
just have
like,
to assume.
what does the school board do?
Well, they had the power to pull Dumbledore from the school, so you would assume that they would have the power to like veto teachers,
Yeah,
or
you would assume, yes.
Could they veto the Ministry of Magic, though? I don't know. Like, could they have removed Umbridge if they really wanted to?
well, I mean, I'm saying I think that the school board is the one that supported the ministry in hiring Umbridge, which is why Dumbledore had no choice.
Okay, I see.
Right, so if the
Yeah.
ministry and the board want to instill her because they have and they can use his previous record of the last 4 years, including the student death, to be like, obviously you can't do your job, so we're going to fill this role for you.
Yeah.
But the reason this happens is because there is a bylaw or something that says if the headmaster can't find a suitable teacher,
Oh, that's
the
true.
ministry steps
Yeah.
in.
Maybe they
It's not the
declined every option.
well. Also, it's not that unlikely that he couldn't find anyone.
The
After
last one got stuck in a trunk for the whole
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the next one is Snape, because Dumbledore is like, well, I'm not even going to attempt anything here. So Snape, you
Well,
get
he
it.
needs to keep Snape close, right? So to get he brought
Yeah.
Slughorn for the memory. So to justify having
Yeah.
Slughorn there, he had to move Snape.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only one other thing that Snape could possibly do. Can you imagine
Yeah.
Snape
Yeah.
teaching Muggle studies? Honestly, I think he would be good at it.
I was going to say, I mean, he was raised in a muggle world, so he knows.
But yeah,
But like,
Yeah,
I'm not sure
going
it,
back to-
it helps his Death Eater standing.
I know I made this point earlier, but I don't think we quite finished the discussion about how I actually don't think Umbridge was the worst DADA teacher, because of specifically what she was teaching.
Yeah, because I think she runs a book club, essentially, and not in a smart way, because she makes the students read in the class. You could just assign the reading and then discuss the reading in the class, because otherwise it's just
she
reading
doesn't
hour.
even
Like,
discuss the reading.
no. And also, like, I would see your point if the book was about defense, but the book is very much not really about defense. The book is more sort of like, yeah, this is why it's tricky. Like, it's not really a good book. And has she assigned this book to everyone all 7 years?
I would assume so.
Because I sort of assume she has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't agree that she's a good teacher, because she's just making students read in her class, which they don't.
Ooh, let me
That's
clarify.
like what subs do.
Let me clarify my point then, because I'm not saying she's a good teacher. I'm saying she's not the worst DADA teacher that we see.
Who's worse?
I think Lockhart's worse. I think Amicus Carroll.
I think
is
Drama Club
worse.
had more benefit than this.
And he taught Harry Potter Expelliarmus.
That was your point.
That was my point, wasn't it?
No, I think there is an argument to say that even just making them read the book, she was at least having them dedicate time towards learning something. Whereas not all
Right.
of the teachers did that. Like, we don't know how much they actually learned from Quirrell and all of that stuff. But
Right.
I think with Umbridge, I think she's the only teacher you cannot ignore the politics behind her hire and the actual like crazy harm she did to the school in the process.
Yeah. I would compare her most to Professor Binns. who, for all intents and purposes, is also essentially their reading in History of Magic, right? So, like, yeah, Umbridge could have stood at the front of the room and read to them, but is that better or worse than the students reading themselves?
I think it depends on the course, because they even say, like, she doesn't allow them to do the practicals, which are a test that they have to pass.
Right. And there's no practical History of Magic.
And so she is not doing the bare minimum of her job.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from the standpoint of whoever hired her, so here's the question. How are we criticizing how well of a job she did? Because Dumbledore didn't hire her. So we're not actually, she wasn't hired in the interest of the students and the staff. She was hired by the ministry in the interest of the ministry. So in the perspective of the ministry, she's doing exactly what she was supposed to do, and she's excellent at her job.
Until she slips up and the students revolt, which happens after Dumbledore is leaving the school.
And then we get the DA and Harry. So really, Umbridge is the best DADA teacher. I'm totally kidding.
She inspired the students. She really, truly inspired the students to band together and learn.
Yeah.
Some of them, just 30 of them.
And then they all fought in the Battle of Hogwarts, and really, Umbridge is the one who saved them. Okay, anyway.
All I'm hearing is that you're arguing that Umbridge and Lockhart saved the Wizarding World.
They did, yeah.
Through their shitty teaching.
Funny to be learned by a bad teacher, right? Okay, I'm just trolling at this point. I need to stop.
I mean, the next teacher in the list actually should get some credit for this.
I think he taught them a lot, actually. Snape?
And I actually do think Snape was the best.
He actually taught them Expelliarmus because Lockhart couldn't.
I actually do think Snape was, unironically, the best DADA teacher that we ever saw.
Yeah, in terms of what they learned,
Yeah, not only in terms of what they learned, but also just, like it made sense, right? It was a lateral move for him. It was, like he had already been at the school for years. There was nothing, like, controversial about it as far as, like, the public knew, or parents knew, right? There was no, like, him being possessed by Voldemort shenanigans going on. There was no...
He wasn't a werewolf.
I'm trying to expose a fraud, right? Like, it was truly... And there was no concern for students' safety or well-being with Snape as DADA teacher.
That's true.
At least not directly from Snape, right? So, like, I actually think Snape... I do think Snape was the best one.
I think he was a great teacher. Unfortunately, the one student he wasn't a great teacher for is Harry. And we read these books out of Harry's perspective. Right. And it's all because of the occlumency thing that happened the year before, that Snape and Harry at this point basically cannot function
I don't blame him.
in, like, proximity of each other.
Yeah.
But also, like, we have Hermione and Ron commenting about how Snape reminds them of Harry in the DA.
Which is wild.
Because Harry's like, and I was like, but it sounded like you teaching last year. And Harry's like, no. And I'm like, yeah.
So
I guess, like, okay, so we'll say that maybe Snape was the best hire.
Yeah.
Technically.
Also, like, for Dumbledore's strategic plans, best hire because he needed it at that time.
So
yeah, like, between Moody and Snape, I think it's pretty. But yeah, and then Amicus Carrow,
who was presumably hired by Voldemort through Snape because Voldemort put Snape in the position of headmaster.
Well, can you imagine Snape being like, "You have your pick of Death Eaters to be teachers. Who are you going to pick?"
Do you think Voldemort held that an application process and then Death Eaters each had to do a demo lesson for him?
He was like, who are the two people I can spare?
Who are the two dumbest people in my employ?
Otherwise he would be Crab and Goyle, but, like, he was like a little bit of just above Crab and Goyle, but, like, not further above. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing that obviously happens is the ADA turns into just the dark arts, basically, because they torture students and, like, it's not cool. But yeah, that's all the hirings.
Yeah.
On to the firings.
I am going to propose that almost nobody actually, the only person who got fired was Lupin. Because if you go through, Quirell died before he got fired.
Well, and Amicus.
Lockhart had a unfortunate accident before he got fired, so he was no longer qualified to teach. Lupin got fired. Moody, obviously never actually taught. Traumatized. Whatever. Umbridge was run out of town. Snape technically got promoted.
Yeah, that's true. And I actually don't know if Amicus survives.
I don't think he does.
Is Amicus still alive after the battle?
He's still in Ravenclaw Tower in the net that McGonagall throws him in.
So he becomes imprisoned before he gets fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lupin, I think, is the only professor that actively got fired.
Yeah.
And actually, he probably didn't get fired, but
I wonder if he quit before he could get
quit.
fired.
Yeah.
Oh, so nobody got fired.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like, I'll quit before everything else blows up. I'll leave.
Yeah, Lupin said he quit, but then Harry later on says he was sacked. So
maybe it was a little bit of both. You know when, like, you go to put in your notice and they're like, yes, you can leave as of today.
Right.
We've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Well, and that's not terribly uncommon, right?
Quick, let's get the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess this is where we kind of transition to the part of the episode where Sophia talks about the jinx.
So one of our recommended readings for today is an article I wrote way back when I was staff writer at MuggleNet. So it's called The Schemes Behind the Spite, Why Voldemort Really Jinxed the DADA Job. So I wrote this a long time ago, and I had 850 words, so I had to make it very tight. And then I had some really good comments in the comment section, including from our very own Irvin, HP Boy 13. And I kind of realized I liked the core of my theory, but some of the smaller points and the argument behind it, I was like, I think need to be fine-tuned. So if you read the article, it's actually going to be kind of different than this discussion because I've sort of adapted based off of the feedback I got. So if you're curious of sort of seeing how I got to this point, you can go back and read the comments, read the article. So we have the DADA jinx. This jinx, in the text, the only sort of reason that is given for it is mainly kind of spite, that Voldemort was denied the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, and every year since then, only the DADA teacher only stays for a year. And the commenters in the article were also talking about how it serves another purpose, which is it weakens the magical population's ability to defend itself, because if you don't have anyone learning Defense Against the Dark Arts, then you don't have a very good army to fight against. But I think that there might be an additional power in this jinx that I'll get into in a moment.
Can I just jump in before we dive into the jinx further? Because you're right, it's only mentioned in the text once and sort of almost in passing. Yeah, a tiny little bit.
A really tiny bit.
Yeah. But I'm so surprised because this is not just before the book starts. This is a while ago.
It's super
and
long
Dumbledore
time
has
ago.
to hire a new DADA teacher every year for quite a while. So how does he even find anyone who still wants to do it by the time it's Harry's time at Hogwarts? Because at that point, it's decades.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, we don't know exactly, I don't think, but probably around 30 to 40 years. That's insane. That's a lot of, considering how small the population, the wizarding population is, that's kind of insane. Yeah. Which I think kind of explains some of the bizarre hiring decisions here of there's truly nobody left for the job. Yeah.
Do we think lots of them died, or did most of them just have weird accidents? Or
so I have kind of like a combating view on this. I think that people left of their own accord, but I wonder how strong the jinx was during the time frame that Voldemort was defeated, because it really depends on how like the jinx pulls magic, right? Like, is it in Hogwarts itself, or is it powered by Tom Riddle? So I think that maybe a few have died, weird accidents, but not quite as many as we maybe think, because then like they would just get rid of the position and create a alternate class. Like that's what I would think they would do if it was really that treacherous to have that job. But yeah, I would wonder if it is something that is like in the past and got forgotten for like the 10 years that Voldemort was defeated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that people were dying in this job, because I think it would have come up, because, you know, Hagrid was at Hogwarts for all of that time, and he does bring up the DADA jinx he doesn't say that he knows for sure it's a jinx, but he's like, oh, people say this job is jinxed, whatever, like Lockhart was the only one for the job, etc. And I would think that he would say, yeah, like, you know how Quirell died last year? Like, we've had like 10 teachers die, you know, in the last 30 years, or you know, even if it's just 2, like, you know, that's still a kind of a large number. So I would guess that it's mainly like the teachers have gotten in trouble for crazy things. They have quit. They have had family emergencies. I think it's been just
like happenstance.
Yeah, happenstance as in, I think it is the jinx. Like, I think the jinx has a role in it, but I think that it's like not as dramatic. You know, I think most of the instances of it are probably like not that dramatic. It's only the fact that it's literally every single year that is making people say, this is suspicious. Like, this isn't normal.
I always wondered, kind of going back to your other point, like, why didn't they just rename the class and rename the teacher? Like, would that have broken the jinx if we called it dueling instead of defense against the dark arts? Or doesn't Durmstrang call it? Is it just dark arts at Durmstrang? Maybe it is. But,
it might be.
Yeah, but I feel like we heard about that in Goblet somewhere, where it was they don't call it defense against the dark arts at Durmstrang. They call it something totally different.
I don't think that's in the books, but it might be.
Yeah.
It might be in some of the Pottermore stuff. But
yeah, I've always wondered about that.
I am going to argue later on that that it is a broader definition than just DADA, or that potentially it's a broader definition than just DADA. But the fact that you just said, like, could you call it dueling? There is one dueling club, and it ends very poorly. So
yep.
maybe that was the jinx. Who knows?
It was just a name that came to mind, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also curious. I just want to jump back on Mayura's point of how is the jinx powered? Because if we assume it's powered through Hogwarts, because, I don't know, there's so much magic in Hogwarts, and just because it's spoken in Hogwarts, Hogwarts sort of just picks up on it. And we also know that Tom Riddle probably had a deeper relationship with Hogwarts than most other students, so I could sort of see why potentially it's powered by Hogwarts magic itself. But then I think the flip side, if it was Voldemort itself, would it be more powerful during his first rise to power in the first war, where he was in control and very powerful, and then did it sort of simmer during his 10 years of ghostly living in wherever he was.
Yeah. So I've given this like quite a think. And if you think about it, so Voldemort, while he was a student, was kind of starting on this path, right? He had Horcruxes at this point. He had followers, we would assume, soon after. So like his influence at Hogwarts would be stronger. And then as he's rising to power, he has people and students with a dark mark at school. And so like that, like in my opinion, like his magic is still present within Hogwarts, powering the Jinx. But let's say when he gets defeated, at that point, the Death Eaters have all graduated. No one is being actively inducted. There's no presence of his magic at the school until Harry Potter walks in with a Horcrux in his head. Though I just found a hole in my own argument because the diadem is there. So, but that maybe that's the point. Like didn't he also use that instance to hide the diadem?
Yeah.
At Hogwarts?
Yes.
So maybe like that is what's powering the curse, and the curse just becomes stronger when Harry Potter gets there, and so the incidents become fatal and crazy compared to just happenstance, I guess.
I think that's a good segue into my theory, which is that this Jinx, there's the primary aim, which is only each DADA teacher can only stay for a year. And because of the nature of this Jinx, there actually might be a sort of secondary aim that is sort of most of the time of this Jinx. When Voldemort has been basically defeated, hasn't had really any schemes to put into place, etc. That's really the only purpose that the Jinx has served, is just one DADA professor, 1 year for each DADA professor. But
which I have to say is quite nice of the Jinx, that there's still a year worth of education.
Yeah, could be worse.
Because if you really wanted to do damage, you could just interrupt, it could only last a month, or could, a semester, or...
Yeah. Well, I think at that point they'd have to do something more drastic about it, right? Like,
True.
So with it being once a year, it's really purely from a political war standpoint, right? Like, each teacher is going to do something different. No student is going to get a standard of learning. And so this is where like the older Death Eaters and Order members are all quite skilled in defense, but anybody who comes after, so like their children or like even like Nymphadora's age and beyond, they all have to have extra training to excel at defense.
To be fair, that already is the Marauders themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, the Marauders would have been, well, I guess we don't know exactly. I would say that by the time that the Marauders were at Hogwarts, the Jinx was already in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, when did Voldemort apply? Because didn't he apply when he was... Well, he applied twice.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how old... As far as I know, we don't know exactly how old he was when he applied a second time. But it was like before he sort of came into prominence as being like evil wizard Lord Voldemort, we are at war with him. Whereas when the Marauders were in school, like that first Wizarding War was like already in full swing. So it was before that point. It was sort of when he was just starting to get together his followers, like, he's saying to Dumbledore, like, that I go by Voldemort now, but it's not like everybody is like, oh my god, Voldemort is in the school, It's not a super intense thing. So by the time the Marauders were there, the Jinx was already in place. I think the Marauders are just incredibly talented, and they did a lot of, as we see with them, like, becoming animagi by themselves, like, they did a lot of their own extra studying and research and all that.
You also have to remember that 2 of the Marauders come from historical houses, right? The House of Potter and House of Black. So Sirius Black, no matter who he was, coming into school was always going to be ahead because of the house that he was born into, the family that he was. We don't really know, like, how the Potters are, but I would assume you have one child and you want him to be excellent, you would give him tutoring, right? Like, we know that Molly tutors her children. You would assume the Potters would as well, but they have infinitely more resources with their wealth. And whereas Lupin, maybe, like, his family was poor, but his father held a position with the ministry and was schooled before the jinx, you would assume. So, like, this is where, like, you could probably assume they have their own supplemental knowledge, and then once they graduate from Hogwarts, like, Sirius becomes an Auror. Like, I feel still strongly, like, at that point, maybe it hadn't had as much of an effect as it does during Harry's time, but it's starting to.
Yeah.
You would assume. Because Pettigrew is not, like, particularly skilled.
Oh, no. I was talking about the other 3 Marauders. Yeah, Pettigrew is not skilled.
I think
yeah.
for me, it's almost more Snape itself. Because Snape wants to be the DADA teacher, finally becomes the DADA teacher, and has always had an interest in the dark arts. Yes, he's a half-blood, so he has his mom, obviously. So he also has potentially...
But he didn't learn.
But he is really good at it, so...
But he's
and he has the same...
in Slytherin, surrounded by all of the purebloods who expect, like, sure, you're going to be in our house. If you're a half-blood, that's great. You still have to be excellent. Like, we're still the best.
Yeah.
So he has so many people to learn from.
He's also, like, clearly a sort of unparalleled genius of his time. Like, he is coming up with his own potions.
And spells.
Spells, and... is an amazing occlument. So I think, to be honest, the Marauders, with the exception of Peter Pettigrew, are just, like, kind of the exception to the norm. They're
Okay, I'm throwing one last person at you.
Yes.
Lily.
We don't know as much about her, but we're also told she's very talented. The thing is, like, I think with the whole DADA thing is, like, the jinx only means that you have a bad education if all of the individual teachers are bad. And by the time that we get to Harry's generation, like, they've gone through all of the good teachers. So, like, having one teacher per year, like, that's what I had in high school. Like, every math teacher I had was different, you know, that wasn't abnormal for me. It's only if they're, like, terrible at keeping an assigned curriculum, if it doesn't build off of the year before, if they're not good at their job. So I think for the Marauders, it's like a combination of they hadn't gone through all of the terrible teachers. They hadn't gone through all of the good teachers yet, and gotten to the bad ones, and they were just naturally talented.
I would push back on that a tiny bit, just because, like, I mean, a teacher is going to be much better in a subsequent year than they would be in their first year. Like, I would have been very interested to see Lupin as a second-year teacher. And I actually think he would have been even better as a teacher in his second year than in his first, right?
Yeah.
And we even see that, I hate to bring Fantastic Beasts like lore into this, but we even see that with McGonagall, right? Where McGonagall isn't a very good teacher at the very beginning of her first year, and then by the time we get to Harry's year, she is like the best teacher in the school, arguably. So well, I think that's just.
I feel like all teachers are like that.
Right, yeah. But that's what I'm saying is, like, if you have a teacher who has been teaching for whatever subject for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it's naturally going to be a better education than a teacher who's in their first or second yeir. But because the DADA teachers are always only lasting 1 year, you never get a teacher who reaches that point. And I think that's kind of the point of the jinx. But I don't think any first year teacher is going to do as good of a job as McGonagall does in Transfiguration in her 40th year or whatever, right?
That's fair.
I've
Yeah.
also had the thought, because I always wondered why they didn't just, like, make it part of the Auror rotation, that, like, you just do 1 year at Hogwarts as part of your assignment. But I wonder if they did do that. By the time Harry comes up, like, there's only so many of them that can teach.
Yeah.
And that are skilled to teach, that are still alive after the First War, like, that sort of thing. But that's always been my, like, micro thought about it. Like, it should just be mandated.
Yeah.
I really like that idea because
I know, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I always thought Tonks would be a good DADA teacher too, but
No, I think she would be quite awful.
She's a little too disorganized, I think.
You need to wait until
Yeah.
she's in her, like, 50s. Not that she made it there.
well, spoiler alert.
But no, but it's one of those things, like, even though Alistair was crazy, like, he would have been a great teacher.
Yeah,
I
agree.
The more experienced R's would have made great teachers.
I actually don't agree with Moody,
Well-
but we'll get there. Yeah.
You guys will get there. Yeah.
Yep.
So going back to some of the sort of my ideas of another purpose that the jinx might have, is that if the opportunity presents itself, that it can get rid of the DADA teacher in a way that furthers Voldemort's aims or schemes. So for most of the recent past, like before Harry, that opportunity doesn't really present itself because it's peacetime and Harry isn't around, so Voldemort doesn't care as much. Also, Voldemort is vapor. He doesn't have schemes, except theoretically at some point to hopefully return to power, but he doesn't even know how. So, and this goes back to what we were talking about before, that, so in Order of the Phoenix, George talks about this jinx. He doesn't call it jinx, but he says, it's not surprising Dumbledore had trouble finding a DADA teacher when you look at what's happened to the last 4. And Harry's like, yeah, 1 sacked, 1 dead, 1 memory removed, 1 locked in a trunk for 9 months. Yeah, I see what you mean. If, like, the 2 professors who had come directly before Harry was there had also had dramatic things happen to them, like, that would be the time that Fred and George could just jump in and be like, oh yeah, like, the last 2 professors, like, one got eaten by the giant squid, like, the other was attacked by a venomous tentacula. But, like, they don't add anything to the conversation, which makes me think that, like, these last 4 are particularly notable, crazy, dramatic. But for the Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers that we see while Harry is at school, the way that they lose their job connects to Voldemort, or, like, helps Voldemort in his schemes. So if we start with Quirrell, if we think about why he loses his job, is really because he has Voldemort on the back of his head, and then he dies, you know? Either way.
I think he truly died before he lost his job.
Well, true, but even if he had survived that, after he tried to kill Harry, he would have lost his job, you know? Either way. And I find it really interesting, like, the sort of luck involved in the fact that Quirrell, like, wandered upon Voldemort's path. And, like, when he had like taken on the job of Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, he's trying to learn more about how to do that job. He's also kind of attracted to some of the dark arts, and how Voldemort describes it is, a wizard, young, foolish, and gullible, wandered across my path in the forest I had made my home. Oh, he seemed the very chance I had been dreaming of, for he was a teacher at Dumbledore's school. He was easy to bend to my will. And I wonder if there was this opportunity of this DADA teacher, and this jinx, because it is ultimately, you know, motivated by serving Voldemort's ends, was like, okay, in the process of making sure that this DADA teacher leaves by the end of the year, we could also just, you know, attract him to the random part of Albania where Voldemort is. And we see that Quirrell has a sort of weak will, so there might be some pressure that would easily sort of bring him to that spot and allow him to be possessed. So
I just want to
yeah.
offer a point of opposition. Do we know that Quirrell had accepted the role before he went on his summer outings? Because I don't think he did. I think, because he says very specifically that he was a teacher at Dumbledore's school. I think once Voldemort got a hold of him, he asked Dumbledore to do the DADA job.
At which point Dumbledore's like alarm bells must have gone off. Like,
does Dumbledore really care about any of that? He's like, you know what? Harry Potter's coming. Needs that.
I've already built like a little like course for him to go through.
Okay, give me a moment because there is
because what did Quirrell teach before?
Muggle Studies, which is crazy. But let me
which
see
is an insane
if I
switch
can,
from Muggle Studies to
because J.K. Rowling wrote about Professor Quirrell on Pottermore. So let me find it really quickly.
I'm looking forward to, yeah.
So he did set out deliberately to find Voldemort, but the truth is, I'm sure other people did too. You know, the fact that he found him, I think, is a little bit more than chance. Like, you would think that whatever Aurors would be looking for him too. Let's see, what did she say? So it says he took a grand tour around the world before taking up his teaching post at Hogwarts, but he had a teaching post before, so I'm not sure what that means.
It's also interesting that the Muggle Studies teacher is like, I'm going to need a sabbatical to tour the world because this is really important to my job.
To me, it
100%.
makes, I don't think we have an exact answer, but to me, it makes much more sense that, like,
as a Muggle Studies professor, he would do that.
No. Yeah. So that Dumbledore is like, we need a new teacher for next year. Is there, for Defense Against the Dark Arts, is there anyone who's willing to take that job? And Quirrell is like, he has a secret interest in the dark arts, which is confirmed here. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that, but I don't have much background in it. I should take some time to explore and learn more about vampires and whatever. And so he takes his world tour, and in the process he meets Voldemort. So that's,
I guess
what makes
that would
most
kind of
sense to
explain
me.
why he would be in like Albania.
Yeah.
But I still, every moment of that is the most sus moment ever. Dumbledore truly scraping the bottom of the barrel.
True. But you'll get to that earlier with the hiring stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Or later, I guess.
I don't think Dumbledore cares.
Yeah, well, I think at this point, like, think about if you're running this school and you have to find a new teacher. Not only do you have to find a new teacher, you have to deal with the stupid shit that comes up during the year anyway. Because, like, at what point, do we know at what point Dumbledore figured out there was a curse on the post?
I think he's known for, like, most of his time as headmaster, and it's just like, not much I can do about it. I'm guessing that Quirrell was a terrible Muggle Studies teacher, and so he was like, cool, we can get rid of him after this year. Like,
well, because the other thing is, it's like Voldemort, same difference, attaches himself to Quirrell.
Wow.
No.
Potato.
It really is two sides of the same coin. Attaches himself to Quirrell. Quirrell has the Defense Against the Dark Arts job. Well, wouldn't Voldemort know that he only had 1 year to, like, do anything?
Yeah, and so he takes advantage of it really quickly. He's like,
Unicorns.
Let's get the Sorcerer's Stone. Like, you know, he is on it. He is planning to use that one year to get his body back. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
A year is all he needs.
Yeah, Quirrell was so disposable to him.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, totally.
Sorry, but, like, I'm going back to, I don't think Voldemort possessed Quirrell when he was already the DADA teacher, because Voldemort possesses Quirrell, then they try to steal in Gringotts, then the stone gets moved to Hogwarts, and only then does Hogwarts become interesting.
Well,
But I wonder if Hogwarts was interesting because of its proximity to unicorns.
or I think it's more proximity to Harry and to getting information about Dumbledore. So I think that it's kind of like a backup plan is, okay, you know, it's a long shot that you're going to be able to steal something from Gringotts. But, like, if we can, we're going to steal this from Gringotts. If not, we know, like, because he probably guessed that it would move to Hogwarts because Dumbledore is friends with Nicholas Flamel. Or at the very least, he knew that Dumbledore would probably be involved in hiding the Sorcerer's Stone. So maybe he didn't know it was going to Hogwarts. But he knew that Dumbledore is going to help Nicholas Flamel with that because Dumbledore is, like, besties with Nicholas Flamel and is gonna, you know, try to figure out what to do.
I agree with that logic.
And also because Dumbledore, like, really doesn't want Voldemort to have it. So I think that Quirrell's closeness to Dumbledore and to Hogwarts is gonna be helpful either way.
Yeah, so I think maybe it was just like that first year he had many aims. I don't know that he really cared too much about Harry Potter. Like, he was just curious at that point. Like, what is this kid?
He does try to kill him in the forest, I think, and on the Quidditch pitch. So I think that he was like, if Quirrell can kill Harry, like,
great,
while we're getting the Sorcerer's Stone, cool.
I think Harry was
that's good
gravy on top of. I mean, the stone was really
I think it was secondary. I think that was secondary. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Harry just happened to start at Hogwarts that year, and anyway.
So then we have Lockhart. So the reason that Lockhart, like, actually loses his job is this backfiring memory charm. And
again, did he actually lose the job or did he just become incapacitated?
Exactly.
He never actually got fired or quit.
No.
We don't know. He probably didn't know he had a job.
Well, technically, I feel like he was going to quit because he was preparing to abandon the castle.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Deserter.
Yeah.
Just under different circumstances.
This backfiring charm, it doesn't only serve the purpose of taking Lockhart out of the picture as DADA professor, but it also serves what Voldemort's aims are at that exact moment, which is to trap Harry in the Chamber of Secrets. Because of the backfiring curse, there's that huge avalanche that separates him from Ron's help and makes it impossible for him to leave the chamber. And I could imagine that this jinx could have some sort of power over this situation. So it might have put some pressure on Lockhart to grab Ron's wand instead of Harry's. Or causing the charm to actually backfire and explode with enough force to cause the tunnel to collapse. Because, you know, yes, Ron's wand backfires before, but his wand also does a lot of other crazy things throughout the year every time he tries to use magic. So there are lots of possibilities to what could have happened with the wand, and I can imagine the jinx might have had some sort of power in that moment to make sure that it backfired, which made it so that Lockhart was incapacitated, and also made it explode so that there is that avalanche.
Yeah, I can see that, because you say we see Ron's wand not behaving, but I don't think we see it backfiring before.
Only once, with the slugs.
We do.
With the slug,
Oh, yes.
So this is where I kind of lose you a little bit, because I can agree that the jinx maybe creates certain circumstances in choice, right? So I just don't know that the jinx is very much doing it for the benefit of Voldemort. I personally think that is just coincidental because Harry is there always. But this is where sometimes I have a hard time trying to ascribe this much forethought to the jinx by the person who wrote that plot device. I don't think there was. I think it's just an easy way for us to explain why we don't have a DADA professor at the end of every year. But with Lockhart, there were so many other things that could have happened that would, quote unquote, help Voldemort, that this series of events is absolutely wild.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's a little bit like prophecies, where like it's so vague that after the fact it's like, it must have been this. We're like, yeah.
But that's where it's just like, I can see where each instance for these 7 years, or not even 7, but these Harry's years where it helps Voldemort. But realistically, I think that like the whole Lockhart situation, it's also like, it comes down to Harry and Ron being idiots. Like,
exactly.
He's running away, so let's force him to do it because of what we think he's capable of. Like, that whole thing, that's the decision that set everything off, is Harry and Ron's decision to go to Lockhart, who they think is going to deal with it. But all the other stuff that comes from it, it's like, the jinx can't, in my opinion, foresee that they would know those things. Like, how does Harry already know how to get to the Chamber of Secrets? Like,
I don't think that the jinx is foreseeing anything. It's taking opportunities as they come. So this is an opportunity where we have this idiot guy about to do a memory charm with a bad wand, and it's like, ooh, what can we do with this? You know, how can we make this as catastrophic as possible, both for Lockhart and in a way that will help Voldemort's aims? And to be perfectly clear, I am not actually even suggesting that this was intentionally written into the book.
Yeah.
I actually don't even care. The way I like to theorize has nothing to do really with intent, but more with, well, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
You're kind of to retcon it, yeah.
I don't think it's retconning, because it's not changing anything from the canon. It's
enough.
just, we're imagining ourselves into this magical world, and we're saying,
theorizing
okay,
how the magic works.
How could this magic work? Yeah, like, what could it be? So let's see if I can convince you guys with some of my other stuff. Okay,
I think so. Part of the problem is, and we've covered lots of book 1 and 2 chapters recently, is book 1 and book 2 are just not that strong.
No.
She hadn't figured out what she was doing, and it's showing.
All right, so
You're just like, I can't convince you with Lockhart.
well, let me set out my whole argument, and then you guys can see what you think. So we have Lupin.
Can I make one more quick comment about Lockhart?
Yes.
Okay, before we move too far. Would the jinx be... I guess maybe, I mean, the idea behind that you're presenting is that it's just trying to get rid of anyone who's a DADA teacher. I guess I'm failing to see a situation where the jinx would see Lockhart and Ron as a threat to the basilisk. Because I don't think there is
it's not just that. It's trapping Harry in the Chamber of Secrets, that he can't get away.
So I could get behind, because one of the big things about magic that I've always believed is Hogwarts. And I will apologize, I read a lot of fan fiction. So Hogwarts is a center of magic in the magical world, right? It's the strongest place, like the most protected place. There's so many kids who have magic there. The castle itself is magical. The staircases move and stuff. So one of the things that we know from like the Room of Requirement, sometimes what the intent of something is not what it has become. So I wonder if, to support your argument, Sophia, is Voldemort created the jinx, and maybe it had embedded itself into the castle, and the castle's magic has warped it a little bit further to start influencing events, right? So the jinx is to truly protect Voldemort at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so the castle takes its intent and makes it stronger. Because the question, because like Voldemort, what his intent was when he cast it is not the way it's playing out. So I wonder if somewhere in the magic it has been twisted a little bit.
Or we also don't know what the original intent was, but yeah, I think that I agree that even if it's not embedded in Hogwarts, even if it is just like, it is Voldemort's style of magic, and Voldemort's style of magic is to warp situations for his own benefit. And so that's what this jinx is doing in addition to its original aim. I'm wondering, I think let's skip actually to the part where, because we've been talking a lot about like, how does this jinx work? So how about I'll give you my theory of how I think this jinx works, and then I'll talk about some of the other professors, because I think that'll maybe give you a sense of where I'm coming from here. So no matter what, the jinx needs to actively be doing something to ensure that DADA professors always leave. So even if the reason it backfires is not to trap Harry, etc., even if it is just to wipe Lockhart's memory, etc., like, no matter what, it has to be doing something. And I'm going to talk a bit more about this and all of the rest of the professors. But from what I can tell, even if we ignore the rest of my theory, if we're just thinking about what does it seem to be doing that causes the DADA professors to leave, is it seems to be encouraging them to make catastrophically bad decisions. So whether the fact that these decisions end up contributing to Voldemort's scheme is chance or design, they always seem to sort of bring about their own end through some sort of bad choice. And if we compare to some other types of magic we see in the series that affect people's behaviors, we have Imperious Curse, we have Felix Felicis, we have Muggle Repelling Charms. And when I say behaviors, it's behaviors and thoughts / perceptions of reality, which, I think can go hand in hand. Affecting someone's thoughts can affect how they act. The Confundus Charm. But to me, because this is Voldemort we're talking about, I think that probably this jinx might work most similarly to how, like, a Horcrux's magic affects people. So Irvin pointed out in the comments of my original article that none of these people are really acting out of character. They make these bad choices, but they're not bad choices that they wouldn't otherwise make. So that kind of reminds me of how Ron describes how the Horcrux affects him. So he says, "I'm not making excuses, Harry, for what I was like, but it affects me worse than it affected you and Hermione. It made me think stuff I was thinking anyway, but it made everything worse." So the Horcrux, as this like part of Voldemort's soul, it's not that it's changing Ron's personality, but it does put pressure on his worst instincts and his biggest insecurities, all of the negative thoughts. So when we look at the scenarios that push the DADA professors out of their jobs, and we'll talk about the rest of those in a moment, we can see how kind of a nudge towards the worst part of their nature is often what gets them into those situations. Also, the Horcruxes seem to sort of, I'm going to write this in an article, but sort of draw people towards them, especially with Harry. So we see, like, Harry being, like, strangely drawn to the diary in the bathroom, like, wanting to pick it up for kind of no reason, and he sort of says even he doesn't know exactly why. And I wonder if sort of having the DADA job sort of causes people to feel pulled towards things related to Voldemort, or what Voldemort wants, or like we talked about with Quirell, like maybe being pulled towards that certain spot in the Albanian forest where he is. We talk about how, like, or Dumbledore talks about how magic leaves very distinctive traces, and he says, "I taught Tom Riddle, I know his style." So I think that the Horcrux could be a good comparison, because it makes sense to use this other sort of form of Voldemort's influence in magic as a model for what it might look like. So I'm curious what you guys think of that as an explanation of either how the jinx works in general or sort of how the jinx might work specifically to help his aims.
I think still how the jinx works in general, I am not convinced with the arguments you brought forward, sorry. Partially because the teachers we haven't touched upon yet, we know that Moody says he's only going to be there for a year. Yes, that's obviously not Moody, that's fake Moody. But we can sort of assume that even the real Moody only agreed to do it for a year, because I sort of don't think he would agree to do it longer anyway. He's coming out of retirement for this. So that one's already on a timeline anyway. I don't think the Ministry intended Umbridge to be there for longer than a year either.
Really?
Or that Dumbledore would have agreed to have her, because the only reason she is there is because he couldn't find someone. So he will probably be like, no, I'll find someone next year so you don't have a reason to give me a teacher
they've
again.
changed all of the rules to make it basically impossible for him to have control over Hogwarts. So I think they were definitely planning for her to stay. Maybe not as DADA teacher, but definitely as a High Inquisitor or...
Yeah, I think they intended to instill her... appoint her somewhere in Hogwarts so that she could still affect decisions. But if you think about why they put her in, and we can talk about this when we go through her, but it's just paranoia from Fudge. So at this point, if you think about it, Fudge is just paranoid that Dumbledore is amassing an army and too much power in the wizarding world. So he needs to put someone in to kind of usurp that power. I don't think, I think Umbridge was just convenient and available and loyal. I don't know that they care whether she stayed more than a year or not.
Yeah. I think especially...
It could have been anybody.
She's definitely gunning for headmaster, and she would prefer to just run the school instead of teaching.
But I think she has decided that for herself, not through the Ministry.
Yeah. That's just her personal ambitions. And then Snape is another curious one, because at that point, Dumbledore knows he's dying. He's like, right, I need Slughorn back, so this makes, in my chess master plan, this makes sense. I'll just swap these two out, and then things will go down anyway, because I won't be at the school anymore. So
yeah.
So this is where I'm really struggling, because for a lot of these teachers, I'm
But if we think about
track.
the fact that this has been here for 30 to 40 years, this jinx has to be doing something to cause people to leave. And if people are not just dying every year or whatever, if they're choosing to leave or having things happen to them, the jinx needs to have influence on people, as in it has to have influence on people's decisions to a certain extent. Even if it doesn't have control, it's not like the Imperious Curse, it's not it has to have some sort of influence on people's decision-making or on things happening to them. So no matter what, it has to have some sort of mechanism for how it works.
Yeah, so I kind of like your tie back to how Horcruxes work and how they bring out the worst in people.
Yeah.
We kind of see that there's the argument that the Dursleys are as bad as they are because of the Horcrux in Harry. But like I said, I know you're not totally on board with my concept of the jinx, but I can see how that jinx would just grow in power over the years. And having Voldemort's kind of hate behind it is what's influencing these teachers to make the worst decisions. Because you're right, each teacher kind of, aside from Quirell, who I don't see how that applies to, Lockhart
he decides
makes the decision
to go find Voldemort. That's a pretty bad decision.
I mean, I don't know that he went.
But was he the ADA teacher at the time he made that decision?
Well, we're not sure.
Wasn't he still Muggle Studies teacher?
That's why.
No, this
sure.
is what we were talking about before. We don't know whether he was DADA teacher yet or not. Yeah.
So let's assume he was, and his bad decision was to kind of pursue the dark arts.
Yeah.
More. Lockhart's bad decision was to decide to kill Harry and Ron.
Or to modify their memory, yes.
Yeah, Lupin's bad decision was to not drink his potion.
Yeah.
Moody's bad decision was to exist.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Could you argue that Moody was not the professor? That it was actually Crouch
Barty
Jr.?
Crouch.
Barty?
Yeah, that
so, like,
would be my argument.
would the curse have impacted Moody or Crouch at that point? Because Crouch was fulfilling the role of the professor.
I'm treating Barty Crouch more as the professor. Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So, and then there's so, like, I do agree that, like, maybe it's bringing out decisions in circumstances that are influencing the outcome that lead to their own demise, right? I mean,
yeah,
Snape killed.
That's kind of my that would be my argument.
So I can follow you there,
okay.
and I can, with my own theory of how magic gets amplified at Hogwarts, can understand how it has, like, become a, like, such a strong influential thing within the castle.
Yeah. So if we think about some of those specific professors now, so we have Lupin, as you're saying, his big, the reason he loses his job is he doesn't take the Wolfsbane potion, which is also a terrible decision.
See, I am already debating you on that one, because I think the second any of the parents find out he's a werewolf, he's out.
But they wouldn't.
The reason
they wouldn't have.
he's out is because it happens.
Say that again.
He would have also lost his job if he didn't turn into a werewolf, but someone found out he is a werewolf.
That is true. I don't think someone found out. I think Snape let it out.
Yeah, but that's only after the events
and would,
of that
and would
night.
Snape have let it out?
Without everything that happened.
Yeah,
so, like, that's where I think it is kind of that situation, because Snape kept it under wraps as long as it was under control.
Yeah.
And he was taking the potion and all of that stuff. So with proof, I mean, obviously, and spite and irritation, that Lupin has forgotten his potion and put the students in danger, I think that's where Snape felt like it was a good agreement to break to let it out.
Also, I would say, because
isn't he on the registry?
I think the reason that Snape let it out was actually because he thought that that Lupin had been helping Sirius, and then Sirius had escaped, and he did not believe that Peter Pettigrew was the actual one who had been the villain all along. And because Peter Pettigrew escapes, he has no proof that that's true. But Peter Pettigrew would not have escaped if Lupin had taken the Wolfsbane potion. So if Lupin had taken the Wolfsbane potion, there would have been no reason that Snape would have told anyone about what happened. Also, I think, Lupin might have chosen to stay if it hadn't been for the fact that he put all of the students at risk by not taking the potion. Because what he says is, by tomorrow, all of the parents are going to be sending letters to Dumbledore and to me and whatever, and saying they don't trust a werewolf to teach their kids. And after what happened last night, I don't blame them. I could have killed any of you. I think
you give Snape way too much credit. You give Snape way too much credit. Let's assume Lupin doesn't turn. They actually convinced, they have proof, Pettigrew is real. Sirius and Severus
I think
hate
Snape
each other.
still said it. So I wonder.
Sirius and Severus hate each other, but I don't think that has anything to do with Lupin. If he doesn't think that Lupin is helping a criminal into the castle, why would he be doing that?
Sirius used Lupin before to try to kill Snape. Snape is easily going back.
But that was years ago, so Lupin would have already Snape would have already outed Lupin if it was about the prank.
There's an argument to be made that even if Sirius came out as not the reason, or what's the word, innocent, and all of this stuff happened, there is still the gap in your duty as a professor. The knowledge that you have at that point is that this man is a mass murderer who's trying to kill one of your students. So for you to take it upon yourself and not involve authorities or anybody like that to capture him when you know where he might be, there's a whole thing. I think what happened is that when Dumbledore decided to bring Lupin to Hogwarts, he made an agreement with Snape. However they bound that agreement, I don't know. That Snape was not allowed to tell anybody that Lupin was a werewolf. And the conditions of that is that Lupin would take Wolfsbane every month.
Yeah, so you're proving my point.
Yes, this is I'm saying this in support of your point.
Oh, okay.
This whole time. I have always believed that the thing that screwed up everything at the end of third year was Lupin not taking his potion.
Okay.
That whole situation would have been dealt with so much better. But I do agree that maybe the agreement was just for this year and that Snape would have let it out no matter what, or he would have gotten Malfoy to let it out. Because the question I always have is how public is the werewolf registry? Because Lupin is on it.
Well, and the other thing is that Lupin went to Hogwarts, right? And I know it was kept secret at Hogwarts, but people knew. Like, they know who he was. They know that he was mysteriously out sick for a month. Like, Snape figured it out. Like, surely
Hermione
somebody
is
else
not the
figured it out,
only
too.
genius who could have figured it out.
Right. Like, Snape figured it out. Hermione figured it out. Like somebody had to have figured it out, right?
Well, but also, didn't they use
school.
Lupin during the first war to try and parlay with the werewolves?
That was during the second war.
No, I think it happened during the...
We don't have any evidence that it happened during the first war, only in the second war.
I have evidence that Dumbledore would have exploited everything he knew to try and get anything.
They were still very young during the first war, so we don't know how much Dumbledore used them.
Really?
We do know that
I see your point. I see your point, but like, yeah,
but
we don't know.
say he didn't. At minimum, Snape knew, but he was bound that he couldn't tell anybody. Who actually paid attention to Lupin enough to know that there was a cadence to how often he was out at Hogwarts? So, the other Gryffindors. That's it. I would assume Lily figured it out at some point.
I mean, James told her. Yeah. I'm guessing. Maybe not while she was there.
The 70 ADA teachers who were teachers while they were at the Marauders.
Well, I think all
school.
the teachers were. Yeah. So here's the thing: is it's just like there must be like a NDA version of magic, and that is what I think is holding people to this secret, right? Yeah. So because if enough people knew and were able to let the secret out and didn't want Lupin to be the teacher, they would have said it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So there is some sort of NDA situation happening with people that they can't speak about it.
Umbridge
or they're just respecting his privacy.
He's on the werewolf registry.
Yeah, but like what parent is like, oh, here's the new DADA teacher, let me just randomly check the werewolf registry to see if he's on it. So I think that most parents don't know or care.
Well, most parents would believe that Dumbledore wouldn't hire a werewolf.
I think where we're struggling is also with how big is the wizarding community, because if we're saying it's not very big, how many people work at the ministry and how quickly could this be shared amongst the ministry and then seep out?
Yeah.
Because if you assume at least one of the kids' parent at the school works in that ministry.
Which we know Marietta Edgecombe's mother works at the ministry.
Yeah.
That's what is Umbridge, right? And like she hates half-breeds. And she would do everything in her power to get him fired before she even started.
If we're just thinking about parents, but I agree that not people would check the registry. Maybe there's just a trust that Dumbledore wouldn't hire a werewolf, which means anybody who already knows the knowledge and could spread it probably can't speak on it. And that's where I wonder if there was an agreement with Snape, and in support of your argument, that because Lupin broke the agreement, Snape's able to speak about it.
That would make sense, yeah.
It's possible.
I do wonder if, at the very least, McGonagall needs to know as well because she's deputy.
Oh, I think all the staff know. I'm
That lady
sure.
figured
Yeah.
that. Okay, I'll say McGonagall is one of the few people who during school would have had to know. Because Madame Pomfrey knows, McGonagall knows. She's head of house.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Lupin actually says that all of the staff know. Yeah, all of the staff.
Yeah,
know.
Lupin says the staff know.
All right, I'm running out of energy, so I'm just going to try to get through my part, and then
Points,
you guys can
yeah.
continue to debate without me. We've already sort of debated, is the Wolfsbane potion why Lupin has to leave? I'm arguing it is, but, different perspectives there. But it doesn't only cost him his job, but it's also essentially the only reason that Peter Pettigrew escapes, and it's the only reason that Trelawney's prophecy about Voldemort's return to power is fulfilled. If Lupin had taken the potion, they would have been able to bring Peter Pettigrew back to the castle, and none of those things would have happened. So I think probably the jinx in some way, shape, or form encouraged him to make that reckless decision to leave without the Wolfsbane potion, or maybe put pressure on Snape. We don't know to what extent it's only working on the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor versus other people in the castle, but put pressure on Snape's spite to not bring it with him to the Shrieking Shack. So we talked about that in a different episode. Why doesn't Snape bring it with him to the Shrieking Shack? To me, that seems like a strong argument for how this jinx is really helping Voldemort's plan a lot in that moment, as well as making sure Lupin can't come back. So if we go to Moody / Crouch, and I'm really talking about Barty Crouch Jr., I guess there are kind of two parts that cause him to lose his job. This one is, I think, hard because, truly everything about it causes him to lose his job. There's a lot going on. But he's working for Voldemort, like Quirrell. He's being kissed. He is kissed by a Dementor, but he'd already probably lost his job by that point. So, there's not anything really that would... Crouch Jr. was already on Voldemort's side, so that was kind of already a win for Voldemort. But we do see, similarly to with Quirrell, there is a lot of luck going on here, with Bertha Jorkins being running into Wormtail, and they're also in that Albanian forest. So I wonder if there's some sort of creepy Voldemort.
What is in Albania?
Yeah, Voldemort magic going on that kind of draws people to him that he needs, and which is what allows him to put Barty Crouch Jr. in place as DADA professor. But then also I think what's really interesting is at the end of the book, the Dementor kisses Barty Crouch Jr., either without being commanded to do so, or I think we talked about with DJ on our Fudge episode, you had that theory that Barty Crouch Jr. might have actually told the Dementor to kiss Barty Crouch beforehand, or, because he didn't want the story to get out.
That wasn't my theory, but I remember we talked about it.
Oh, that wasn't your theory, but you brought it up.
Yeah.
I think it was new to us.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we don't know which happens, but this really, it not only takes Barty Crouch Jr. completely out of the picture, but it also really helps Voldemort because it doesn't allow him to testify about the whole plan that he was part of to corroborate Harry's story. Given how evil Dementors are, they could easily be nudged into doing this by some sort of the jinx, some sort of Voldemort power. And also, I could imagine if it was Fudge who ordered that, then you could also imagine something sort of pushing Fudge to do that as well, because he would not take much convincing.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, not to turn this into a what if, but we obviously don't know if Crouch Jr. would have been more useful if he goes to Azkaban, escapes the next year with everyone else, and actually takes over the role from Lucius for retrieving the prophecy, because I I would be more worried if
Rip everyone.
Crouch Jr. is in charge of that, because he managed to get a 14-year-old through the tournament.
I mean, I would argue
Order
that
of the Phoenix in the last book.
I would argue, though, that, like, what Voldemort most wanted, at least, like, okay, he was always planning for Harry to never return from the graveyard and never be able to tell anyone, and to be able to have that secrecy. Like, that was his plan, and Harry kind of ruined it by surviving and telling Dumbledore as soon as he came back to Hogwarts, and getting the Order of the Phoenix on it as soon as he came back to Hogwarts. So I'd say if we think about just like what was Voldemort's plan, his plan was that nobody knew that he had come back to life. So if this is sort of trying to help bring Voldemort's plan into action as much as possible, I would argue that that would be kind of its go-to move, instead of coming up with a long-term plan that may or may not work.
But do we truly know he wouldn't have made a big fuss if he defeated Harry in that graveyard? Do we not think he would have?
I think he would have sent back a dead body.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
Easy.
I don't think so. Well, I guess we don't know for sure, because obviously we never get Voldemort's perspective like that about this, but we definitely get... we definitely know that that is what Dumbledore thinks. Like, that is what is said in Order of the Phoenix, is that Dumbledore...
but only because he wasn't successful.
No.
Because I fully agree, Voldemort lays low because it works for him in Order of the Phoenix. But I don't think he has a reason to if he kills Harry at the end of Goblet of Fire.
No, we have a quote from Dumbledore... from, I think, Bill... in the Order of the Phoenix, saying basically that Harry ruined Voldemort's plan by surviving, and Harry was like, well, what did that do? And they say, what did that do? Like, you just, like, the first person you talked to was Dumbledore. That was the last person that Voldemort wanted. So at least that is what the Order definitely strongly believes, that the plan was always for him to lie low. And because he barely has any, and I think the Order members are saying, like, basically, what do you think? Like, Voldemort's going to try to take on the whole Ministry of Magic with, like, less than 30 Death Eaters? Like, that's not going to happen. So he needs to build up followers, and he needs to do that secretly. So at least that's what Dumbledore thinks. Obviously, we're not in Voldemort's head, so we can't say for sure.
No, I kind of agree. I think his plan was always to kill Harry, and the tournament explains it, right? Like, kids die in the tournament all the time. I still think he would have sent back a dead body.
Oh, you mean sent back a dead body as in just as a, like...
yeah, like, here you go. He died in the tournament.
Oh, that? Yes. No, I see what you're saying, definitely. I don't think he would have sent it back as, like, a message of, like, haha, I killed Harry. But yes, I think just to, like, leave it in the graveyard,
it's just to tie
not
off.
in the graveyard, in the maze or whatever, and they think he's been killed by Necromantula.
It's just to tie off that line. So in the public, so here's the thing, that though, even if that happened at this point, Dumbledore already knows that something is going on, so I don't think that, like, Dumbledore would have ignored Harry dying as not a sign of Voldemort coming back. But I think Harry coming back actually helped Voldemort more, to be honest, because it ruined his and Dumbledore's credibility even further. Because up until this point, Dumbledore is still, like, an ultra credible person in the wizarding world, and it's Harry's mad ravings that the Ministry targets as a reason for these two to become, like, don't believe them, that's crazy, like, what other proof do they have except, like, the ramblings of, like, a crazy child. But that's where it's just kind of like, I think his plan was always to, like, not be on the public's radar, and he already had followers out in the world. It's very much like a these people have gone back to their jobs and stuff, but like the moment that their person is here to be like, hey, it's okay to want to kill all the Muggle-born students again, they're just like, yeah, we're still with you. We've just been living our lives. There's always been sympathizers and supporters within the ministry. He just needed time to not gather followers, but to reactivate them. Right? Like, gathering followers takes a lot more time, but he already did that legwork. He just needs it to be known that he's back, and he needed to kill Harry to make it a point that, look at me, the guy who killed me last time cannot kill me again.
Yeah.
And that was all he needed to prove to his followers and to himself, because he's a deeply, deeply flawed individual who has something to prove to himself at that point. But I honestly, truly cannot tie your theory to Moody at all, Barty Crouch, because like the decisions that Barty Crouch made, they were not like wildly out of not wildly out of character, but like they're not the worst decisions. In fact, I think Barty Crouch made all the right decisions throughout the book.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that the Barty Crouch one, like, you know, the jinx didn't really, like, with my theory, the jinx didn't really have to do much there to get this to work for Voldemort, because literally Barty Crouch Jr. was just like working for Voldemort the entire time. So I'd say with my theory of the jinx, it is kind of in the opportunity, when it has the opportunity to help Voldemort's plans, it does. And I would argue potentially, you know, some of the stuff with Bertha Jorkins and finding Wormtail, that might have been helping Voldemort put in a DADA professor who was, you know, working for him. But with this one, if we are just thinking about Barty Crouch Jr., I don't think the jinx was affecting Barty Crouch Jr.'s decisions, really, because Barty Crouch Jr. was never, for one thing, as people pointed out before, never planning to stay past that year. And I think it was less necessary in this case.
Well, and every decision he made, he would have made anyway, regardless of if there was a jinx or not, right?
Exactly, because he was already working for Voldemort. Yeah, sorry, go on.
So where it does fit is if you consider Moody as the professor. So we know that Crouch was the professor physically throughout the year, but if you look at who had the title, it was Moody. So if you apply your theory to Aleister Moody, technically I would say that maybe your theory, and I'm trying to get behind it. That is where I would say it would fit. It would fit in the case of Moody because he is the one, he accepted the role. We don't know what happened that night, but somehow he made a decision that got him kidnapped, and locked in a trunk. And so technically, if you consider him the professor, he made bad choices. He's like this great Auror.
Before he even started.
Before he even started. Exactly. But still, he held the title, right? Like, we can assume now. So this is where I would say, I would assume that it's the person who holds the title that the jinx would be working against.
Yeah. So it's possible that, you know, in terms of helping to bring Barty Crouch Jr. into that role and to bring Voldemort's schemes into play, that the jinx sort of worked far before the end of the year with the original Moody. Yeah,
well, but that's why I'm trying to stretch my brain a little bit here. To find an answer in support of your theory.
Yeah.
But that's where, but then we can also, we'll talk about this later, but then it's like, okay, so if you hold the title for the defense professor, then you're the person that the jinx affects, not the person teaching defense.
Potentially. Yeah.
And this is, I know we're going backwards, but I want to talk about this in the hiring part.
Okay, so I'm gonna go quickly through the next couple because I think I need to go take a rest. But so we have Umbridge. She loses her job because I would say the simplest explanation is being attacked by the Centaurs. I don't think that she would have stayed. So obviously Voldemort's return is publicized. Dumbledore returns to Hogwarts, so she probably would have been fired anyway. But after that attack, I kind of doubt she would have stayed. And you guys can argue that, but I think I'm going to move on for now. But the Centaurs attack Umbridge. That attack is what allows Harry to go to the Ministry of Magic, which is what Voldemort desperately wanted in that moment. And Umbridge is really the one standing in the way of Harry getting there. And if we think about the sort of bad decisions, Umbridge probably would have done this either way, but it is really, really, really dumb of her to insult a herd of armed centaurs. Like, what did she think she was doing? Like, that's truly
because
insane.
She's a supremacist.
She is insane, but she is insane, but like that is truly just like why did she think she could get out of that? Okay. And also maybe with the Centaurs, it was kind of dumb of them to attack a Ministry of Magic official as well, but to be honest, they don't really seem to get we don't see any repercussions for that, which is kind of surprising. I feel like there probably are, we just don't see them. And then if we think about Snape, with Snape, I think that Dumbledore kind of outsmarted the jinx on this one, as in he was like, I am going to intentionally put Snape into this job precisely because I know that Snape is going to have to leave the school by the end of the year either way. Snape is going to kill me by the end of the year. He is going to be seen as like a Death Eater. He's going to have to leave. So he was like proactive about that. But
I
this
would, Sorry, I would adjust your point just a little bit, that Dumbledore knew he was going to die by the end of the year, and he knew that if he died and someone replaced him, they likely would not have kept Snape on, since he was the only reason that Snape was there.
Well, he also got Snape to promise to kill him by the end of the year, and also Snape had done an unbreakable vow saying that if Draco didn't kill him, Snape would, but Dumbledore never wanted Draco to kill him. He always wanted Snape to be the one to do it. So I think that Dumbledore is planning Snape to kill him, so knows that he's going to have to leave, you know?
Question. Do we think Snape, because Snape technically did not leave Hogwarts, he was promoted to headmaster.
Well, yeah,
right?
He left.
He did originally leave with Draco.
He left and then he was rehired.
Right. But I wonder if that actually inadvertently broke the jinx.
Did it?
And it just happened to be that Amicus Caro left the next year after 1 year. If that was just,
I wonder if Dumbledore dying could have broken the jinx.
Well, I think
because it really was to spite Dumbledore.
I also think, you know, since when Voldemort takes over Hogwarts, he doesn't want his own appointees to Defense Against the Dark Arts job to have a jinx against them. So I'm pretty sure that he removed it himself when he took over Hogwarts. So I think it's probably just, you know, a coincidence that Amicus is forced to leave the school before the end of the year, or like it's kind of a funny, it's like kind of a irony there. But I doubt that Voldemort would have just been like, cool, I'm putting my Death Eater in this position, right, and like who knows what's going to happen to them.
I just thought it was funny that Snape was...
Yeah. But it's I kind of like the idea of Dumbledore.
I just thought it was funny that Snape is technically the one, like, because he was Potions Master before, but I mean, so was Quirell, but teaching a different subject area and then going to DADA. But then Snape goes from DADA and gets promoted to headmaster.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's kind of interesting that it happened to be Snape, who was also a Death Eater, right?
I think the curse is tied to the title.
Yeah.
of DADA professor. So it doesn't matter if you switch roles or not.
Yeah.
Whoever has the role.
Hermione says, and we don't have proof that this is true, but like when they first hear that Snape is DADA professor, they're like, yay, Snape's going to be gone by the end of the year. And I can't remember if it's Hermione or Ron, but one of them says, well, that's not necessarily true. You know, Slughorn might be staying just for 1 year. Snape might go back to being Potions Master. So we don't know if that's how the curse works, but I assume that if you go back to a different position, then that is fine. Or if you go to a different position, then that's not the same thing. So finally, before I head out, okay, so you're talking about, you know, the jinx being tied to the title of DA professor, which I think totally makes sense as a theory. This is a bit of an out there theory that I want to throw out, which is, could Harry be considered a DADA professor in his 5th year? Because he kind of acts as the de facto, like, real DADA professor when he, like, has Dumbledore's army. And if the jinx is trying to stop young wizards from getting real DADA training, it may see Harry as a threat, and perhaps more of a threat than Umbridge. And I always thought it was kind of interesting that Marietta Edgecombe decides to snitch after like 6 months of meetings. And what is it that like pushed her over the edge there? Like, why did she make that decision? So maybe the jinx was realizing how powerful the Dumbledore's army kids were getting and decided to give a little nudge to her worst instincts. And interestingly, actually the collapse of Dumbledore's army also furthers Voldemort's aims by causing Dumbledore to flee the castle. So potentially we have another Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher affected.
I wholeheartedly disagree.
And why is that?
With my entire being there. One, previously, like I said, this is like a Moody Crouch situation. Even if you have someone teaching it, they might not be affected by the curse, like if it's tied to the title. Two, Marietta Edgecombe did not decide after 6 months to snitch on them. Umbridge was going methodically by who they thought was in the group, and by the time she got to Marietta Edgecombe, she found her nail because Marietta Edgecombe's mother works at the Ministry.
Wait,
and Marietta.
Sorry, what evidence do you have of that?
That
not her mom working at the Ministry, we know that, but of Umbridge going methodically through people she thought was in the
What
group.
evidence do you have that Marietta Edgecombe would have decided after 6 months to then snitch? Like, what would be the reason?
Well,
I'm just using my own logic at that point,
okay, so
and everybody's logic is different.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're sort of that's your theory of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, I think they have always been trying to suss out who is in the group, and so you can think, okay, Harry Potter is in the group, definitely. But he's not the weak link. His other friends in Gryffindor are not going to be the weak link. So let's think of who else.
Oh, I strongly disagree with this.
They could be. So, like, I'm sure they're going person by person and interrogating them about, like, are you in this group? But, like, this is where, unless something happened, nothing could have happened in my brain that Marietta would have just been like, actually, now is the time to tell on them, unless there was a reason that she was presented with that would have affected her decision.
DJ, did you have something you wanted to add there? I have a thought, but you go first.
So the Umbridge questioning students, that's a movieism. That doesn't
it is a
happen
movieism,
in the books.
but could you assume that it could be happening in the books, and we just don't know about it because Harry's an idiot?
We don't have any evidence in the books that Umbridge knows anything about the organization. She does not know.
And we do see we do see that Harry does get questioned by Umbridge about Sirius Black's whereabouts right after she becomes headmistress, and she tries to get him with fake Veritaserum even. And I find it extremely hard to believe that Umbridge, A, would not question Harry about an illegal group that she suspected as him being the leader of, and B, that Harry would have just neglected to mention that through the books. I really see where you're coming from, I guess, but I think it kind of falls apart because there's no way that Umbridge wouldn't have tried to get Harry to just confess to that without.
But then on the flip
even a
side,
question.
what reason could Marietta Edgecombe have to flip on her friends in the group?
It's said that her mother is under a lot of pressure from the ministry, I believe.
Who's putting that pressure on her?
So a couple of things, because I do actually have an answer to that question that is.
I'm sorry,
totally
I'm also a
separate from the
Marietta
students.
Edgecombe apologist.
Well, I kind of am too, to be perfectly honest. But one thing is, okay, so in the movie we see a lot of, Filch and the Inquisitorial Squad
that's stupid.
trying to find out what's going on with Dumbledore's army. They see the room of requirement. In the book we have none of that. We have no evidence that anyone suspects that Dumbledore's army exists. So I don't think she's questioning people. I have an answer on Marietta's. What?
We do have Umbridge knows about.
She knows
the
they
DA.
had she knows they had the first meeting.
She
in
knows
the
they had one
Hogshead,
meeting,
but she doesn't know.
And then she bans it.
And then she bans it, but she doesn't have any clue that we know of that they continued anything after that point until 6 months later with Marietta. And we don't see her trying to figure it out or anything like that. With Marietta, and this has nothing to do with the jinx, nothing to do with any of that, but my personal headcanon for Marietta is that she hates Harry personally because she thinks that Harry is breaking her best friend's heart, because Harry and Cho have that terrible date. Harry is totally tactless.
Cho's in the group too.
No, I know. So Harry is totally tactless. And then shortly before Marietta turns them in, Cho reads the Quibbler article about Harry and is like, oh my god, I didn't know, you're so brave, having said all these things, I'm so glad you did that, and she gives him a little kiss on the cheek or whatever. And I think that Marietta is Cho should not be forgiving this guy. I don't trust this guy. He hasn't treated her well. He was terrible on that date. Why is she forgiving him? And she is just I'm done with this. This is my friend is being dumb and I hate Harry and I want revenge. So I don't know.
That's a theory I can get behind. That checks out with every teenage girl I've ever met. Not everyone, but
that I take offense to, by the way.
I'm kidding, but yeah.
No, but this is, I can see a world where maybe that is what happened, but she has friends in the group. So snitching on Harry is also snitching on every single person in the group.
My additional headcanon is that Marietta has a crush on Cho. This is my headcanon. Headcanon is in there's no evidence. I think Marietta has a crush on Cho and is angry that Harry that she's still going back to Harry. She's angry at Cho, angry that Cho keeps on going back to Harry after he's being such a asshole to her, and is all right, I'm gonna burn this whole thing to the ground, and decides to get her revenge. So that's my totally made up.
So if we just go by what we know from the book, that her mother was under a lot of pressure, and somewhere in that Marietta snitched. So the question is, where was the pressure coming from and why was the pressure coming to her mother? So it is not outside of the realm of possibility that Fudge and Umbridge went to all of the parents of students at Hogwarts and put pressure on them, especially the ones who are in Harry's sphere, like his circle of friends.
I don't think Marietta
somehow
is,
to be like, if your kids know anything. I mean, technically she is, because he's with Cho and she's Cho's friend. So like, she is a degree of people in Harry's, not in his, like, from the outside looking in, she's in his circle, or someone who might know something. And so they're going to parents to be like, we need your kid, like, you have to ask your kids, is there anything going on? Do they know anything about what Harry Potter is doing? Do they know anything about Sirius Black? Like, I can see where that is where it came from. And maybe not that she was interrogated by Umbridge, but that her mother put pressure on her that if you know anything, like, I'm under a lot of pressure at work, like, I could, yeah. Poor kids being like, maybe my mom will lose her job, blah, 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 blah. And that's where she went to Umbridge.
Or, and this is going to be my ending note, this is going to be my ending note, and then I'm going to leave. Or, bringing it back to the DADA jinx, maybe this jinx put some pressure on Marietta and made her make a really bad decision. Who knows?
Well, so that's where, like, I can see it, but I don't ascribe to Harry being the de facto DADA professor, because again, we're kind of talking about the jinx only applying to people holding the title, and he's not also teaching all students. They were very selective in which students they were going to teach. Only in their year, no Slytherins. So, like, I don't think that kind of title could apply to him. Like, he's at best the study group leader, where he does nothing but just, like, be like, Harry Potter.
All right. And that would make Quidditch captains the de facto Madam Hooch for their
like flying instructors and things like that. Yeah. So I think it's a lovely theory, but I don't think it applies.
That's very fair. I didn't think I would
you
convince
could assume
everyone.
No, but you could assume that Marietta's decision to go to Umbridge is in fact the reason that Umbridge was ousted in the first place. Through a process of unfortunate events.
I am not going to go into that because I think that'll take too long, and I do have to go. But thank you guys for debating this theory with me, and hope you enjoy the rest of your recording.
Hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Nice to talk to you again.
Bye.
I can argue myself into and out of this theory. And that is what I have been doing this whole time.
I'm struggling with how this works.
I'm not convinced.
I'm not entirely.
I'm not convinced at all, but I can agree that there are certain things that could be read in a way to support your theory, which is really just all headcanon is. And like theorizing it's like manipulating the facts to suit your conclusion. And that is why I'm a Slytherin, folks.
I think I think it works. I think it works really nicely for some of the examples.
But not others. I really don't think it works for Lockhart. No, that man's an idiot.
Yeah, Lockhart was just dumb, right? And I do not see a situation in which anything Lockhart does is going to benefit Voldemort. I think Quirrell, the thing about Quirrell and Moody / Crouch is that they're literally either, they're actively working for Voldemort. So by definition, anything
they're helping him.
Is going to be helping him, right? Lupin, not taking the Wolfsbane potion, I feel like there are 100 other explanations for why he lost his job, right? Maybe not 100, but just the fact that he, not taking the Wolfsbane potion, the idea that Snape or really anybody who knew about it could have let it out at any time, that, I don't know. I think it's a stretch. Umbridge, yeah, I think it kind of falls apart with certain teachers, and I think it works really well for others.
I kind of like the theory that each professor who is the cause of their own downfall. In every case, it's a decision that the professor made at some point that is the reason that they have been let go. Right? And that's where it's like the thing with Umbridge. I say that like Marietta telling on the DA led to the series of events that eventually ousted Umbridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go through all the professors, right? Like Quirrell choosing to attack, like Quirrell going to look for Voldemort or whatever he did led to him getting ousted. Lockhart deciding to memory charm the two of them is why he ended up leaving. Lupin not taking the Wolfsbane potion. I know that you don't believe it, but in the context of the story is the reason that the series of events played out that ended with him losing his job. Because if he did take the potion, then that wouldn't have happened, and we don't know if he would have lost his job or not.
Yeah.
Right? So Moody,
right.
If we're going by the curse hitting the person who has the title, Moody must have done something, or just accepting the role in and of itself and being a paranoid psycho is what eventually led to him getting locked in his own trunk. Why would you have a trunk like that? Like, that's his own trunk that he got locked into.
By the way, that is like my number one fear. Like, I will take any other character's fate over that. Anyway.
But like, even like, if you think about it, it's his reputation too, right? No one is close enough to him. The only person who would be close enough to him to know that there was an imposter in his body is Dumbledore. Right? Like, he has that.
And
even
Dumbledore
his
doesn't figure it out, which is crazy. Yeah.
Don't at me on this, because I think he knew. But literally in every situation where you're like, Dumbledore couldn't have possibly decided to do this, my opinion is that he did. But
just let it happen?
Yes. You don't know me, but were you there when I told Irvin that my least favorite character in Harry Potter was Dumbledore? I think he had to have a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he did. You know that he wrote a book about Dumbledore, right?
Oh, I know. But like, you could even say like him cultivating that persona is the reason that led to his downfall eventually anyway, right? Umbridge, she made so many decisions that led to her own downfall. Falling for Hermione's clearly thought up craziness at the end of the day is the reason why she went into the forest. Snape agreed to kill Dumbledore. Whatever that was. So Dumbledore was doing it clearly so that Snape would become, the master of death or whatever whatever that happenstance is. But Snape deciding to take the unbreakable vow and agreeing to it eventually led to him killing Dumbledore on Draco's behalf and getting him kicked out. Honestly, the 7th book is my least favorite book. I've only read it the one time, so I cannot remember anything about Amicus Carrow other than him being a Death Eater is the reason he got fired eventually anyway. So
yeah.
But that's where it's just like, I can get behind that, like, the jinx exploits the people.
Yeah.
And they end up making decisions that get themselves ousted. But
I think those decisions would have been made with or without the jinx, right?
Exactly. I can see without the jinx, in the circumstance of Harry Potter being at Hogwarts, all of those things would have happened, which is why I honestly believe that the jinx was not as active in the years between Voldemort. I still truly believe that, between Voldemort's downfall and Harry Potter coming to Hogwarts. Like, I don't think it was as, like, violent or maybe not as potent that they could kind of, like, get away with it. Because, like, why else would they...
Do you think they ever went a year where they just didn't have a DADA teacher? Do you think there was ever a year where they were just like, well, we can't find one. Sorry, you guys don't get DADA this year?
What truly led to the decision of taking the Muggle Studies professor and making him DADA?
Right. Or hiring Lockhart, right? Like, we have, like, every other teacher we see in the Battle of Hogwarts. Like, Flitwick is not totally incompetent when it comes to DADA. McGonagall's not totally incompetent with it, right? Like, why couldn't they have just, like, rotated out, like, you take first years, you take second years, you take third years, like just, like, rotate it out. Like, what is I mean, I don't know that Trelawney would be a great candidate for DADA teacher, but
can we just imagine it for a moment? Just throwing.
But she would have time for it, right? Yeah.
But this is just class to aim and throw.
This is where it's like, I will never get past the decision to take the Muggle Studies professor who is meek and timid and not very assertive and make him the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Like, what preempted that decision? Because if that decision was made before he went on this fact-finding mission to find himself and become a better professor in Defense Against the Dark Arts, then Dumbledore made it based off of the fact that he was, a shitty Muggle Studies professor? Who's going to be a better Defense Against the Dark Arts professor? Why is anybody not tagging former students? Like, I will, until my dying breath, like, what about Bill Weasley or Charlie Weasley or any other former student?
Or I think it was your idea to have the Aurors rotate out.
Yes.
Like, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my problem with the curse specifically is that there's plenty of reasons to fire other teachers because they're not competent. But we know that Dumbledore doesn't know how to run a school, so he doesn't particularly care, because Snape shouldn't be a teacher. He's horrible to most of his students. He's a terrible teacher. Trelawney can't teach what she may or may not have a gift for. Like, there's other teachers where you could make the same arguments as you could make for Lockhart or someone. But, like, only the ADA sees them rotating out. Like, you could argue for other reasons why teachers shouldn't stay on.
Do you think that Dumbledore wanted to get rid of Quirrell, so he rotated him in to the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor?
Potentially,
right? So, like, Dumbledore knows about the curse. He's never going to give Snape the job because of that, right? Because he needs Snape to stick around because he knows that Voldemort's not gone. So he needs to keep his spy close. He needs to keep his prophet close. So, like, Dumbledore...
Yeah, so they are safe and can do whatever they want.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how bad Snape becomes or how, like, Trelawney, whatever she teaches anybody. It does not matter because Dumbledore needs them, so he keeps them close. And not just close, but beholden to him. So you would think that the other professors, like, he just doesn't care the quality of professor at that point because to him, it's just, like, an administrative thing. But we're assuming that, like, he picks it every year, right? Like, we know that he asked Moody, we know that he asked Slughorn, but, like, maybe in the years that it wasn't so crazy, he, like, delegated that to McGonagall. Because, like, wouldn't you assume as deputy headmaster, she would curate a list of potential teachers?
I'm assuming that in general she runs the school and Albus just drops in every once in a while. It's like, well, what's going on? Oh, I'm holding a speech? Yeah, I can do that.
Imagine that man doing a staff meeting? Like...
No. Or, like, meetings with his teachers of, like, development and how's it going? They're like, Minerva, let's talk about your lessons. Is everything going well? It's like, no, of course that's not happening.
I'm a very firm, like, Hagrid defender. I know not everyone is. I really like
Evan's
Hagrid.
Not here. Go for it.
Yeah, I like Hagrid as a person. I think he's a great dude.
Not a professor.
I think he is. arguably the worst teacher we see in the entire series,
Yes.
other than Lockhart.
No. Other
And
than Lockhart.
Dumbledore 100%, like, putting aside the fact that, like, obviously we're supposed to be like, haha, Malfoy, you got attacked by a hippogriff. Dumbledore needed to sit that man down and be like, why? Like, what were you thinking? Putting a hippogriff in a third-year class. Like, what?
The
Like,
Manticores?
what is going on here? Like, I'm just, like, flabbergasted by...
I misspoke. I would argue that Hagrid is a worse teacher than Lockhart, in my opinion. Just because he has not... Lockhart, at least, followed
Lockhart could not put anybody in danger, right?
Yes, maybe.
Like, not through the lessons. Not through the lessons.
Pixies lose
But they're
on
pixies.
his
They're corners
students.
pixies.
Yeah, like...
Hold on. That's what he did to his second years. We don't know what he let loose on his older years.
I bet you it was still the
that's
pixies.
True. That's
It
true.
was like, here's like, I don't know.
But if we're going off that logic, would Barty Crouch Jr. technically be worse because he subjected his students to the Imperious Curse?
He taught them something.
Yeah, which also he's like, Dumbledore's allowed me to do this. And I'm like,
I very
either
highly
this is a
doubt
lie
that, but
that
okay.
he just that he's just hoping doesn't get back to Dumbledore, or Dumbledore's actually allowed this, and then it's just insane.
It is amazing to me that there is not a single narc in the student population at Hogwarts. Like, every school has that kid that just goes to the office to report things all the time. Like, it is amazing to me that, like, none of the kids narked to Dumbledore or McGonagall. That, like, hey, man, he was, like, doing the curses for 4th years. Like, I could understand for 7th years, maybe. Like, really.
I can understand doing the curses in front of them with the spiders. That doesn't really... I mean, should that have been done with 4th years? Probably not. But doing it on them? That's not, like, no. Like, that's not okay.
I would have been like, where is your permit? Let me see your permit that allows you to do this.
And I know one of the when you guys kind of squawked when I said Umbridge was my favorite DADA teacher, and you were like, does that mean you think she's the best? I don't think Umbridge is the best, but I think she's far from the worst.
She's very far from the worst. In fact, she taught them a lot of things. She just didn't teach them how to do them. She taught them about it, but not how to do it.
And while we're on the subject of Umbridge, like, there's absolutely a reason for the DADA teacher to teach students when they can legally use defensive magic. And we don't see Quirrell do that. We don't see Lockhart do that. We don't see Lupin do that. Like, they're just like, oh, here's how you defend yourself. But when are you legally allowed to do that? Right?
Well, in her opinion,
I think that's one of her course aims.
We've talked about this, all the teachers, to death. But here's the question. Are we convinced that the jinx influences people's decision making and is only to benefit Voldemort? Was that what her hypothesis was? That she was trying to convince us?
Yes.
That those two things were true about the jinx.
I am not seeing it.
I was like, she tried her hardest. I am convinced that the magic probably does influence them to make the worst decisions. Like, kind of like, I do like the Horcrux argument, and I will die on the hill that Hogwarts is augmenting the magic. That maybe it is not influencing their decisions, but inspiring them to make the worst one. Like the one that would end in catastrophe. Because again, each one of them is the master of their own demise.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, but the Voldemort part I really don't get.
Yeah, I like the part where we talked about the magic and how it works, and I can see Hogwarts being such a magical place that it influences it. But I just don't know how a curse like that actually works. It is such a vague thing that gets introduced. Because it's not like every other thing that we see is like there's an incantation and something happens. This is just Voldemort being pissy and then
through a hissy
the
fit.
position was cursed. And I'm like, how does that even work? Yeah. Because that seems so vague to me. This is why I'm really struggling with this whole thing. I'm like,
the thing for me too is that every single one of those decisions that were made, like nobody made a decision that was totally outside the realm of their character, right? Like every single point that we discussed with their firing could have been just like explained away with, well, this is in line with their character, right? Like I've always been a firm believer that the simplest explanation is probably what actually happened, right? And
Occam's razor.
Yeah, and I think I'm not convinced. I'm trying to be polite about it, but I'm sorry, Sophia, I'm not convinced.
Do you think the jinx is more of like a Baba Yaga thing? Like people believe in it, and so things happen to make it come true, but it's not quite like as powerful as it is. Like maybe it is, because like you can't ascribe the magic of Horcruxes to Voldemort because he didn't create that process and magic that already existed. So like the things that we know, like he created the Dark Mark, but did he really, or did he find something and adapt it to his own needs? And so it's just kind of like, what if the jinx was just like, and it's called a jinx, which already denotes that it's not that powerful, in my opinion. Because like the other jinxes we know about are like the bat bogies and the dancing legs jinx. Like it's not serious that we learn. So what if it is just that? Like it's a little bit of a bad luck curse? And people's perception of it makes it worse, and like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, what if there is no curse and it's just all circumstantial happenstance?
Or
right?
it's just like it just inspires bad luck, because I can agree that there might be a bad luck curse.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we know how superstitious the wizarding world can be with the Grimm and everything, so I can see that.
They believe in divination. That like
yeah.
Sorry.
Mic drop.
You don't know how to use a telephone, but
or stamps.
Oh God.
And that's why I'm saying Muggle Studies should be compulsory for everybody.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's the PSA for today.
Yeah. I'll be on that episode.
Learn about other cultures.
And then the opposite, because I'm a big believer in wizarding customs being taught to, like, Muggleborns should have a wizarding orientation before school.
Yeah, they should be split up. If you're Muggleborn, or if you're raised primarily by Muggles, you have a wizarding society class. If you were raised by wizards, you have mandatory Muggle studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for the first 2 or 3 years, kind of like the flying lessons.
I think I've convinced myself it's just a bad luck curse that people are taking and making worse than it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, everything that happens is really just bad luck.
Yeah.
Sophia's not going to be happy.
Sophia is like, I left and everything changed.
She's like, you were arguing for my theory. And I was like, I was arguing things that I can't convince myself are true.
Right.
Well, on that note, Irvin's left us a song to play on the Puppet's Jukebox, which is Mad Eye Moody by Percy and the Prefects, which does go into the tortured history of the ADA professors to that point. So we'll just give it a spin now.
Had my share of defense against the dark arts professor. From Quirell to the phony, been a werewolf. From what I've heard, you're the worst. I'm sure it's difficult to manage missing a leg and missing an eye. I'll give you house points for that, but I don't like your teaching style. Those 3 curses were banned for a reason. They're unforgivable, even in a classroom demonstration. Isn't their curriculum? Just stick with ministry-approved education. That I sure it's done. Locked in your trunk. Forget this whole tune, cause I never knew you.
Thank you to DJ and Mayuri for joining us today at the pub. It was very great to have you, especially since Sophia couldn't be with us the whole episode. Thank you for making my life so much easier today and bringing all of your excellent points. And we had such a fun debate. So I don't know if you guys have things you want to plug, anything you want to throw out where people can follow you. Don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Mayuri, you look ready to talk. Oh, okay,
I was going to say, let's go in alphabetical.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking I'll go first because I went first for the intro, so kind of keep it consistent. But
yeah, go for it.
But I'm DJ Dennis James. I'm actually an indie writer. I do a lot of fantasy, science fiction type stuff. You can follow me. I put my link in the document, and they'll go ahead and put that to the show notes and add it to the website. But if you want to check out my work, I do write a little bit of urban fantasy kind of. I would say it's not really. It's more like Percy Jackson than it is Harry Potter, but or like Dungeon Crawler Carl. Dresden Files, like that sort of thing. It's not. It's a little bit like Harry Potter, but it's more geared for adults. So
that sounds really cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
So you can find me on all the social places except for the one formerly known as Twitter, at Mercurial Conjurer. And I, in fact, have two podcasts. One is called Not the Droids, which is a Star Wars rewatch podcast. And another one is one that I'm trying to get off the ground, but I really hate editing. It's called Spiced Volumes. And so we review and react to romance forward, fantasy, contemporary, sci-fi, anything. So yeah, those are my things.
That sounds really cool. Would you just mind putting them in the doc?
Yeah, I'll put them in the document.
And I know we have definitely a few of the other hosts here, big Star Wars fans, so I'm sure they'll go check that out. If you enjoyed your time at the pub today, please rate and review us online or tell your friends about our show. Huge thanks again to Sam Oman, who bought us this round of drinks at the Three Broomsticks. And if you'd like to buy us the next round, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the number 3 to sign up. And if you want us to find us online, we just heard from our guests where to find them online. If you want to find us, we're on various different social media channels, which are all linked on our website in our show notes. And while you go to those social media places, you can find chains of emojis to guess the next chapter episode, unless you've already heard at the outro what we're talking next episode. Or you can get that recommended reading that we've been mentioning. And we also share what's upcoming in the months ahead of what we're recording. And lastly, go to our website, 3broomstickspod.com, with the 3 spelled out this time. You can submit a topic, which DJ already did throughout this episode talking to us. But if you are not a guest on our podcast, you can submit a topic there. And please leave us comments on our episodes. We read them out. We love to see all of those comments. It's very cool hearing your thoughts. And next time we'll meet at the Three Broomsticks, we'll be discussing food.
Ooh.
And with that, I feel like you guys should almost read your names as well, because otherwise it's really just me. Come on. We'll do DJ then Mayuri. I'm Oreo.
I'm DJ.
And I'm Mayuri.
Thank you for listening. See you next time in the Three Broomsticks.
Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by The Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
I mean, now I'm really hearing you saying like Voldemort and Dumbledore are the same person because Voldemort wants that too.
They both had the same goal. It was like, get Harry through the tournament.
I'm just like a quick side note. It's like 25 minutes to midnight for me, so I would appreciate if
Wrap
we
it up.
could do the rest sort
Quickly.
of rather quickly because I do have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm actually recording for my other podcast after this.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're
Yeah.
going on 3 hours
Yeah.
here. Yeah, we're going on 3 hours,
Yeah.
so probably wrap it up here.
So we just do Umbridge, Snape, and Amicus we can probably do very quickly anyway. So
I feel like Snape is fast
Yeah.
too.
cool.